Damn, dude. That's rough. It's rough. I don't know why I woke up at 4 though, because I went to bed at 6, so I should have woke up at 2. But I'm gonna give you the bad news first, then we're gonna get into the positivity, right? Because I gotta get off my chest. So I was checking my grades last night, and I was like staying up, stressing out and shit. So I looked at what I got on my midterm exam for one of my classes. And to be fair, I didn't study for it. And we had a day to do the midterm. It was like online. And so I didn't study. I got cocky. I was like, I'll just, it's open note, whatever. And keep in mind, I'm not going to classes. I'm not even going to classes. But so I'm just preparing this so that when you guys make fun of me, I can have a response. Because it's really embarrassing, okay? So I looked at the grades. And it shows all of the grades in the class. Okay? It shows all the grades in the class. And it's anonymous. We have a student ID. And it just shows your ID. And nobody knows who your ID is. So they show all the grades in the class. Okay? I don't need to tell you. I have to tell someone, though. Because this is why it resulted in this. Because of streaming. Okay? So I have to tell someone. You guys know I don't have friends. So, I'm going to tell you guys. I got the lowest score in the class on that final. And they ranked it like 11 to 27 is the highest score and 11 is the lowest. And I got 10. I was outside of the map. I still passed. I got a C- because of the curve and shit. But wow, guys, damn, But I gotta be careful because I've been like too, cocky about. Because last semester I just made me cocky. Last semester is like I barely did work, I barely went to class, and I still got 2 Bs and like 2 C+. But I've been getting cocky and shit, and I've just not been doing any work pretty much besides the stuff that you have to turn in for credit. But if let's say worst case scenario, I get all C-. I can take that. Like I can, my GPA will handle it, and I won't be in trouble with the school. But if I get anything below 1 C-, I get kicked out. It's over. So pretty tense situation. But you know what, guys? I'm gonna be real with you. I know it's a fucking gamble. I know it's a gamble. But I genuinely believe in this more than law school, okay? I know it's fucking crazy, whatever, but no, I am gonna risk it because I genuinely do not believe in law school. Like I don't, just the situation in America right now, the state of the market for lawyers and a bunch of other things. Just law school is always just this kind of safety cushion to allow me to do the things I really do want to do, which is like write and do shit like this. And I mean, okay, laws are gonna be around, but the way it works with there's gonna be a big technology change, and yeah, there's gonna be an overhaul of the legal system of some kind. It's so outdated. If you knew how laws worked in America, you would know how fucking outdated it is. It's just a very simple point. I'm not saying this as like some ideological type of thing. Like from a pragmatic perspective, like if I was gonna bet money on it, I genuinely don't have faith in pursuing it. Shit. Yeah. But that's just the bad news. The good news is that we're here. Guys, I woke up at 4. I barely had any time, to even. I did prepare for the stream. We're gonna have content today. Don't worry. It's gonna be a nice stream. But yeah. So how's your guys' day? How did your day go? Oh yeah, I did have a good. Okay, there's one highlight of my day today. I went to Walgreens to get razors because I ran out of razors, and Chick-fil-A was right next to it. I got a fried chicken sandwich and a grilled chicken sandwich and large fries and a fruit cup. And it was a very good meal. I'm not even kidding. It was a highlight of my day so far, Highlight of the day so far. Did I go to the gym today? No, I do that after these streams. But weirdly enough, at my apartment gym, for some fucking reason, I keep forgetting to call them, they took out the, what do you even call them anymore? The chairs, the gym chairs, they're called benches. What are they called? They're not called benches, are they? Because a bench requires the, those are benches? Okay, well, they took those out. You know, there was only 2, they took them out. So it's been awkward, you know. I got to figure out how to replace those, because those are really important for my my workouts, and they just fucking removed them. Yeah, it's pretty shitty. I feel like, why do people just fuck things up for? Like, those 2 benches were fine. Why'd you take them out? It takes way more work to take them out than to just leave them there. But whatever, you know, whatever. But you know, I'm looking forward to the sun. The last final boss, more or less, the last final boss for me, my personal life, is going to be not this Saturday, the Saturday after that. It's when my final paper is due for this class that's been giving me a pain in my fucking ass. When I finish that paper and I get that done, oh fuck, then I have finals. Shit! Damn. Well, when I'm done with those finals, I don't even know when they are. I'm telling you guys, the streaming, the power level is going to be through the roof. It's going to be off the charts, okay? The level of content you're going to start seeing, way better than this, okay? I mean, this is still good, I think. I mean, to me, I don't know. But the summer's going to be beautiful, guys. Or whatever, late spring, whatever, early, mid-spring, whatever. It's going to be beautiful. We're going to have IRL streams. And we're going to, you know, go outside, be in the sun. And there's going to be more creativity. I already told you guys about that thing I was planning where I want to network with other Twitch channels. Small ones, you know, because we can't be too ambitious, you know. But small ones. And to put together a fun show. Because not like, you know, the Raj or whatever, but our own thing, you know. Because I really loved our shrimp trial. I fucking had a blast, and I even love watching it, you know? I don't have time, but I love watching it. Yeah. If you stream 24/6. Yeah, I think I'm going to be streaming not 24/6, but 6 days a week. And then one day out of the week, I'm going to take that day off, and I'm going to use that day to write and plan. Actually, I could... Not write, but I can plan. Because I can write, you know, before I stream or after I stream. So, guys, I do have writings to attend to that I've been neglecting. Ever since I started streaming, I just put them on hold. I gotta get back to those writings, you know? Hold on, I don't like this song. Sorry, okay. Maybe do less streams and more time making editing content. I wish, dude. No, I don't think so. I think we're going to start having people be our editors. And once we start monetizing, we'll find a way to compensate whoever we find as a regular editor for the show. I really want to, you know, streamline that whole editing process to make sure that we have regular YouTube stuff coming out. Because right now, the YouTube is pretty tumbleweed, you know? There's nothing going on YouTube. So we're going to start... I have some stuff I'm going to release for the YouTube too, you know? So we need to use that YouTube. Because the YouTube is kind of... I'm going to be real with you guys. The YouTube's not growing that fast. But that's our fault, you know? It's our fault. Okay, yeah. And then later in the stream today, I think... we're going to have some call-ins. And the reason we're going to have call-ins is because I just installed a feature. Well, this isn't the reason, but it'll help. Check this out, guys. So when I go into the show channel, look at this. See this? Look at the corner right here. See this? I always wanted that, you know? I found out how to do it, and it's going to make it a lot easier, you know, to have people on. So... including people from the show, like the other infrared people. So yeah, that's some good news too. You know, there's not going to be any gaming tonight. and we're gonna go through some news. We're gonna watch Biden's press conference and other stuff. We have a lot of stuff lined up and planned tonight, and I'm looking forward to it. But okay, well, what do we do in the beginning of the streams, guys? I forgot. What do we do? First, my memory. Sorry, I'm kidding. We check the Reddit. Okay, we check the Reddit. Okay, let's do this. Wow, I'm on Chrome. Let me exit out of Chrome because Chrome is dangerous. Chrome crashes my stream when I have it up. Let's check this Reddit. Poggers. Damn, 774. We're nearing that 800 mark. Firefox. Yeah, but Firefox is like... You guys don't have like a ton of blogs, right? So I need like the different browsers to be logged into the different WordPresses. And Firefox is using one of my... Like I have a bunch of tabs for my blog posts for Firefox. I can't believe I'm talking about this shit and you guys will never even see them. You'll never even know what those blogs are. But I'm just going to be real with you. When I get another PC, because I'm going to keep this one. When I get that new PC, that's when I'll be able to optimize our streaming to the max. We'll be able to use fucking Chrome for streaming, you know? Or whatever works best. And I'll just keep all of my important work on this computer. And like my personal work. And then the streaming will be... This PC will be all for streaming and gaming and shit like that, you know? Alright, let's get right to it. 775, wow. So, what do I think of this aesthetic? Wow, this hit all the way to the top, so clearly it's very popular, but I'm gonna say something really unpopular then. I don't dig it. I don't like it. And I hate to disappoint. But I kind of went over it last stream, you know? Our aesthetic is very much not focused on pastiche. And it's very much focused on ultra-realism. To me, this strikes me as very pastiche. This reminds me of like the 50s or the 60s futurism, right? So it's very pastiche to me. It's like, it's 2D, it's drawn. Which isn't by itself bad, but... It's not quite, you know, what we're aiming for. I mean, it doesn't look bad, but it's not quite the aesthetic we're... Stop saying hauntology. I hate that. It's not what I'm... You don't have to get that deep into it, okay? I just don't like pastiche. It's a cool picture, but it's not our aesthetic. I hate to be brutally honest, but, yeah. But I'll still upvote it, you know? Fisher. Yeah, look forward, not backward. Yeah, I agree with that. That's my view too. Exactly my view. No comment necessary. Nice. I've seen this image before. This is such a cool image. Big people energy makes small pee-pee. This is a nice image. I love it. Are you going on Nimbo tonight? Why would I? No, what do you mean? Oh, today's Thursday. Oh. Yeah, today's Thursday. I forgot. No, I'm not gonna be going on. Yeah. Let me see this. Hold on, we can pause this.
Times. I'm being hurt by the stupid gusanos from Miami. I am being hurt by the Falun Gong. That's who's hurting me. That's who has been driving the welfare state to be eroded in this country, pushing all these right-wing policies, telling people all kinds of made-up stupid stories about communism's so evil, you know, Fidel Castro ate little babies for dinner every day. I saw it. I was there. You can't argue with me. I saw it. I saw it. That's the problem we have in America. This is the problem we have in America. You know, I say that we let all those hungry kids from Guatemala and Honduras into the country, and we deport all the Miami Gusanos. We let them go back to Cuba to deal with Fidel Castro. We deport all the Falun Gong people. We send them back to China so the Chinese communists can deal with them. We deport all of the Afghan, you know, terrorists who were trying to, you know, were working with Osama bin Laden against the Soviet Union. We deport all the Chechen separatists. Why don't we deport all the right-wing scum that the CIA has imported into America? Why don't we deport them? Right? That's what I want to. That's what I want to do. If I was president, there would be a big immigration crackdown. It wouldn't be on the border. It would be in Miami. It would be in the right wing neighborhoods. It would be at the Epoch Times. It would be at the Washington Times. That's where the deportations would take place. There would be a mass crackdown on immigration if I was president, but it wouldn't be against hard-working people who just want to come here and have a job. It would be against right-wingers and fanatics who have been, you know, destroying our country, pushing austerity economics, you know, waging war against our labor unions, driving our wages down, you know, pushing for deregulation, making a situation where our roads are crumbling, where our schools are falling apart, where we got prisons for profit. These people believe in free market insanity, right? And
yeah, I mean, I think this is actually really intelligent optics, and the reason is because, you know, the whole, in America at least, you know, the whole open borders meme, it's really harmful for leftists, and people aren't necessarily xenophobic, but they want to feel like there's some measure of sovereignty, you know, over the country. So this is really good optics, you know, like instead of, you know, deporting hardworking, innocent people, you know what I mean? Like it's good optics, I think. You know, I mean, yeah, not too complicated, but people still need to be educated more about, you know, the how some of those groups are used by the U.S. Against other countries and stuff. But overall, it's good optics, I think. I think it's smart. How long is this? This is 20 minutes.
同志们
I just want to like see the visuals. We're not going to watch this whole thing though, but I just want to check this out. This is beautiful. Wow. I wish Americans can just see this, you know? I wish you could just see this. I mean, I know you can't go there, but just look at this, dude. This is something new, you know?
从全面建成小康社会到基本实现现代化，再到全面建成社会主义现代化强国，是新时代 中国特色社会主义发展的战略安排，我们要坚韧不拔。
Wow, wait. Look at these boats. I love this. I love these boats. I love this look. Ready? This, dude. I fucking love this, dude. This is beautiful.
China's transitions towards socialism
This is absolutely beautiful, dude. These fucking boats.
is new and never before seen.
Dude, I would love to be on this.
On top of this new approach, the CPC admitted that this will take an extremely long time for a socialist and communist society to
Wow, can you imagine being there, guys? That's fucking crazy.
come into full fruition, while introducing markets, corporations...
I mean, admittedly, a lot of Asia is like this, but still.
Sure, we would all like a great modern communist country, but what does that actually mean? How does one plan?
This is a cool video. I've been noticing, though, that this channel kind of... And this is kind of ironic for some of the content I have lined up later. But I feel like we focus a little too much on China, you know? And we have to start paying attention to America. You know, we can't just keep... We want to learn from China. We want to, you know, educate people about it, 100%. But we can't only do that, you know? We have to focus on the problems we're facing here on the ground, you know? Ew. What's ew? What happened? Yeah, we can't. Yeah. What is this?
No, 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 no.
Dude, shout out Hussein the second Barbara Pitt. That guy makes really funny videos. That's what he reminded me of. Music to their ears. They don't know that the third world isn't. Parenti's really based. Okay, I'm gonna say something really mean. Not mean, but just ignorant. Is he still? He is alive. Okay, he's just 87. He's 87 years old. Wow. Wow, dude, he's 87 years old. Damn. I haven't heard anything of him, but I'm sure he's, he's retired at this point. He looks better than Chomsky. Good for him, man. Good for him. I hope he, yeah. CPUSA Vision 2036. This is nice, but this isn't 2036. This is 1978. This is what people thought 1978 would look like in 1958. So this is not 2036. You got to get it right, you know? If you keep saying hauntology, I ban you. Okay, I'm just kidding. I'm not going to ban you, but stop. It triggers me. Infrared Research Facility. I don't know what this means, but I dig it. You know, I dig this. I dig it. I dig it. I dig this. You have any thoughts on who was right during the Ba'ath Party split between Hafez and... I don't think in that case it's a matter of right or wrong. I think it's a case of genuine... I don't know enough about it. I think it's the whole thing with the... It was genuine differences between those countries, but I don't know enough about it. Epigenetic... Nice. Will infrared take the Jim Jones... No, dude. Come on. Come on, dude. Chill. This is the first thing to clear about mass suicide. The desire to avoid death is one of the strongest desires in human beings. Obviously, group suicide can happen, but are we supposed to believe that over 900 people killed themselves knowingly in mass? Okay. I don't know. I mean, I'll have to investigate it, I guess, but... I thought you were going to be like... something else, but it's questioning the narrative of what happened. I don't know anything about it. I'd have to look into it, you know? I don't know a damn thing about, the whole... I know very superficially what happened. Wow, that's Pyongyang. This is really nice photography. Wow. That looks really nice. What a well-armed...
Based.
Based. I did not see that coming. Based. Anarchist reading how Luxembourg described democracy. I don't think people realize that a lot of American leftists have tried to make Rosa Luxemburg oh, I'm a Luxemburgist because they want to be progressive or whatever, but Rosa Luxemburg was pretty hardcore. I mean, she was not like a libertarian by any means, so I don't know why people have tried to turn her into a Disney princess when she was, she was not somebody to be fucked with, you know. But I guess that's what American leftists do, you know.
In the 1950s, a national questionnaire explained exactly what a paedophile was. Each man in Britain was asked if he thought he was one.
Have you seen the review of Dugan's written debate with Olavo de Carvalho? No, I haven't seen it. But it's written. It's a written debate. Wow. I don't know if that's streaming material, but yeah, send it to me and I'll check it out individually.
92% said yes.
Short passage from Lao Tzu. To know and yet to... Whenever you guys send me things that I have to like actually think about and appreciate, I have to skip it because it's like it's just not streamable. Will you give me the Iranian Revolution and IRGC Deep State pill? Yeah. There is a book I'm working on which is about the state. And when that's done, I might just release it publicly, you know, because a lot is in there, you know, a lot is in there. So I might just release that like on behalf of Infrared, but I'll have to check with our people. Haas criticizing Zoom. Am I a Zoomer? I always heard that my age was in between millennials and Zoomers. But I don't think I'm a Zoomer, dude. I don't, like, when I look at TikTok, I just don't understand it, you know. I don't know. Zillennial. I'm a young millennial, okay? That's it. And a spiritual boomer. No, I'm a young millennial. Fuck it. Nick Land versus Biden. Thanks for the follow, man. Let's just blow shit. Wow, shit. Dude, let's go. I never see the day where we cover this account on stream. What? This is true, honestly, it is. Lockdown, yeah, I mean, it's simplistic. General strike is not the be-all, end-all of, you know, what changes things. This guy's a hit or miss. A lot of times he says kind of dumb things, but sometimes he says smart things. What is he saying about this? Simultaneously antagonizing China. He's kind of... Okay, this is something about Nick Land. Land is based, most of the time, when it comes to foreign policy. When it comes to matters of the American unipolar world order, he's pretty based. I can say that much. Poorest city in America circa 2036. Come on, dude. No, 2036 is when the parties reformed or reforged. It's not when the country changes. Jewish labor bond, political prisoner. What is that?
Right. Hello, comrades. Welcome back to the channel.
This is a bit long, but looks cool. It's a bit long though. For the stream, I mean. I'm not brainwashed. They are. Nice. All right, let's check it out. You guys always want me to beef with these people. Let's check out what he says.
Moving forward to the question of Chinese imperialism, using Lenin's criteria from Imperialism, the Highest Stage of Capitalism, Chapter 7, those famous 5 criteria that Lenin characterized. Before we get into that, if we want to discuss whether or not this or that country is imperialist, it's first important for us to have a concrete understanding of what it is that we mean by imperialism or capitalist imperialism. So let's take a moment to revise our understanding of imperialism as the highest state of capitalism. The present era...
Let me tell you something. During Lenin's time, There's no such thing as an imperialist versus a non-imperialist country, okay? Lenin was describing imperialism as a world system, which all countries that were involved in the manifold of global capitalism were a part of. Whether they were, yeah. But the key thing was always political sovereignty. I mean, if you read Lenin's The Right of Nations to Self-Determination, he writes that the linchpin is political sovereignty, a separate state. That's the linchpin of the revolutionary bourgeoisie in the age of imperialism.
Is the monopoly capitalist or imperialist stage of capitalism. Imperialism, in the modern sense, is capitalist imperialism, the modern stage of capitalism. All capitalist ruling classes in this era function within the world imperialist system and seize all of the world's wealth and resources they're able to. However, the bourgeoisie, including its alliance in some cases with the feudal landlord class...
Okay, I think the big pill people need to take in general is that... Are you guys ready for this pill or no? Imperialism is not enough to describe the situation today. Okay, in general, it's just not enough. We're in a new stage today. We're in a new stage. What that means, I'll leave that for you to decide. But if imperialism is the highest stage of capitalism and we're in a stage beyond that, I'll let you guys fill in the blanks. I don't know if you're ready for this pill, but...
in most countries, is far too weak internationally to exercise significant imperialist control over other countries or to organise significant economic exploitation of them. In a few countries, however, the ruling bourgeoisie is far stronger and has quite a free hand to boss around other countries and or to economically exploit them to a considerable degree. These are the countries that we call imperialist countries. So, while all capitalist countries indeed participate in this global system of capitalist imperialism, there are certain countries that have a disproportionately large amount of power which they use in order to dominate within this system. In imperialism, the highest stage of capitalism, Lenin gives us 5 main criteria for measuring and understanding this phenomenon. So let's go through them now. In chapter 7, Lenin states that we must give a basic definition of imperialism that will include the following 5 of its basic features. 1. The concentration of production and capital has developed to such a high stage that it has created monopolies which play a decisive role in economic life.
But he wasn't defining a criteria with which to interpret which countries are imperialist or not. He was trying to define a historical era. I think, it wasn't like a UN a UN inspector's checklist to say, you're going to go to the country, are you imperialist or not? Oh, okay. It's not.
2. The merging of bank capital with industrial capital and the creation on the basis of this finance capital of a financial oligarchy. 3. The export of capital, as distinguished from the export of commodities, acquires exceptional importance. 4. The formation of international monopolist capitalist associations which share the world among themselves. And 5. The territorial division of the whole world among the biggest capitalist powers is completed.
Yeah, the problem is the 5th one. The problem is really the 5th one. China is not vying to divide other countries for itself,
So let's take each of these 5 points one by one.
That's probably just like right off the bat, it doesn't work. But again, the 5 points were about a specific historical era. And by the way, Paul Morin, whatever, Lenin said this was the highest stage of capitalism, which means socialism is going to inherit things that look superficially fit this criteria, like the centralization, apparent, monopoly, whatever. But it's all confused, up in the air, and ambiguous anyway, because you could say China has monopolies, but you could also say that those monopolies correspond to more decentralization and more breaking up of industries. So the era of regardless of what we think about the era of imperialism, let's just say the era of one-sidedness is in the dumpster bin. It doesn't fucking work to you can't understand anything about the world if you think in a one-sided way and you think in terms of black and white, because especially when it comes to countries like China, it just doesn't work, dude.
And see if they apply to China, so that we can arrive at a concrete conclusion as to whether or not modern China is an imperialist country.
Okay, this is stupid though, because Lenin wasn't applying it to individual countries in a vacuum. He was describing a specific era of capitalism. This is the opposite of Lenin's approach too. Lenin specifically always was dichotomizing abstract, definitions with concrete historical analysis. And he said as much, for example, in his I just read it yesterday again, The Right of Nations to Self-Determination, his book or his work. He specifically distinguishes between the materialist and dialectic approach and this kind of approach you're coming from, which is trying to just apply principles and qualities in a vacuum. And this, it doesn't work. Okay, can I go on a small rant a little bit on Western leftists? Let me go on a small rant. Can I? I'm really frustrated at this fact that Western leftists think that because they're living in the West, where everything's evil anyway, that they're already pure, that they already occupy a position of purity, so they can go and look at other socialist countries, like they're going on a shopping spree, and they're like, I don't know, you did bad things, you did bad things, you did bad things. You're not pure enough. You're not pure enough. You're not pure enough. I think I'll pass. I'm fine where I am. And it's this weird Protestant theology where it's like they accept that they live in a circumstance of total depravity, but the fact that, for example, that there might be contradictions in China and there might be contradictions in Cuba or other countries, they take that as the warrant to say that, oh, well, it's all the same then. There's no difference then. There's nothing to be learned. There's nothing to be garnered. There's no actual authentic socialistic development going on. It's just as bad as, this capitalist imperial core that I'm living in. I think I'll pass. No, thank you. But here's the difference between you and those countries. Those countries throw themselves into the thick of actually having skin in the game and actually participating in the construction and development of socialism with all the contradictions, struggles, hardships, and obstacles that are going to come with that. You're this kind of pasty white, lily white, beautiful soul, pure person who's living in the West, who doesn't have any fucking skin in the game and only defines themselves based on the opposing everything around them. They have skin in the game, and yeah, when you have skin in the game, you're going to get dirt on your hands, and you're going to be dealing with contradictions and shit. That's how it is. But it's like they're in the pool, they're swimming, and, you're trying to critique their form while they're swimming, but you're still on land. You're not even dipping your fucking toes in the water. You're still on fucking dry land. Oh, one day I'll go in the water, but I'll only go in the water as soon as it's absolutely perfect to. As soon as I feel it's absolutely perfect to go in the water. No, you go in the fucking water and you fucking do your best, because the dry land that you're on now, the water levels are rising. You're not going to have a fucking choice. Swim to, somewhere else. But you want to stay on your dry land while the water's rising. Like, no, I think I'll pass. What ground do you stand on? Who are you to fucking judge anyone? I don't fucking understand. There's two types of you don't have to just apply this to politics. You can literally apply this to anything in life. There's two types of people. The type of person who shuns the world just because there's problems in the world. You know what? All those leftists who I'm talking about, they are the incels of the left. It's literally like inceldom. I'll tell you why. Because when you try to talk, I'm going to speak as a man. I'm not speaking for everybody in the world. I'm just speaking as a man. When you go out and you talk to women, you're going to fail. They're going to reject you. You're going to be embarrassed. You're going to be humiliated, maybe. It's not going to work out. There's going to be all sorts of problems. But you want to know the guys who they how do I say this politely? They go home happy. They're the ones who just throw themselves in the thick of it, say fuck it, throw themselves in the thick of it, and yeah, they take all that rejection. They don't let it get to them, they deal with it. But these incels out here, oh, I'm too ugly. I don't have the right chin structure. I don't have the right qualities. And, oh, I hate all women. They're all like, you're such a fucking like, it's the same shit. It's literally the same fucking shit. It's the exact same fucking thing we're talking about right now. You know, they're the incels of the left. It's like, dude, have you ever heard of the phrase "better than nothing"? You throw yourself into the thick of it. There's gonna be a lot of hardship and imperfection and contradictions and struggle, but that's the only way you're doing anything. You get with the program and throw yourself into the thick of it. By being this fucking detached incel, you're just rotting away as a fucking loser for the rest of your life, you know? But yeah, that's the end of this rant. Okay, let's continue. Oh, this is Fareed Zakaria. He's actually not that bad.
I don't say this lightly, but this clip that I'm about to show you is probably the best clip I've ever seen on CNN. CNN generally does horrendous work. Horrendous work. They have Wolf Blitzer on 84 hours in the day where he regurgitates robot talking points. He's never made an interesting or controversial or edgy point in his life. He's a clown. Virtually every host has brainworms and they're partisan hacks or they serve these...
Dude, Kyle, he's one of the most stylish people in the game. He's got the most drip in the game. His hair is always on point. And, you know what I'm saying? At the risk of whatever sounding, this is a handsome dude. I'm not going to lie. This is just a naturally handsome dude, you know? So, yeah. Here's why I respect Kyle, because I could tell he's stuck in the mid-2000s, because that's probably when he was in high school and shit. He grew up, and he don't give a fuck. This is an OG, dude. This is an OG.
Or they're just incredibly uninteresting. I could criticize them all day long, and I do. I mean, that's half of my job, is to criticize CNN and mainstream media. But what you're about to see here, this might be the first time ever we're covering a CNN clip, and it's like, there's no caveats, no hedges. No...
All right, this is too long, but I'm sure this is a great video. Get it. This is the truth. It doesn't really matter who's president. The line is always going in a certain way, you know? I heard about this. I don't even know when I show this on stream. Is this real? I don't know if it's real. Is it even real? I heard it wasn't real. I don't know. I'm not one of those people who spreads lies, you know? It's fake. Yeah. I think it's kind of fake too. But I don't know if it's real. That's fucking crazy, but yeah. Guys, one thing I'll never be is I'll never be a liar. You know, these people lie about me all the time. I'll never lie, dude. This is like my worst enemy. I'll never even lie about them, you know? But
So you've accepted. That's good. First, though, I have something you should see.
This dub is not good.
I have Master Hua's murderer. For you. It reads...
Yeah, exactly. We don't need to lie about the dude, you know? We don't need to make up lies. What we know for fact is already enough, you know? That's on record. Jennifer, do you really hate Twitch that much? Is it really that much worse? You know what the problem with Twitch is, though? Granted, the problem with Twitch is that because I'm not partnered. You don't like Twitch either? Oh, come on, guys. You guys are making me feel bad. I'll try to work something out, guys. I'll try to see what I can do. Because I read today that YouTube also has a membership thing, you know. So I'll check it out, you know. But I don't think it's as easy to sub to YouTube as it is to Twitch. But guys, I appreciate it a lot. I'm really sorry about that. I know a lot of you guys preferred YouTube, and you know, we still have the YouTube chat. So if we, you know, ever decide to start streaming on YouTube, we will, you know. But yeah, I know Twitch is like a new environment, and yeah, no partner on both platforms. Oh shit, and donos from other platform. Then you can dual stream. You can't dual stream if you're an affiliate on Twitch though. I haven't done the affiliate stuff. I haven't like given them my account and everything yet. But I might do it this week, but I'm still kind of conflicted, you know? You keep... Oh shit, yeah, exactly. Yeah, it's the fact that they force it to be 1080p. Actually, I might start streaming at 720p, and that'll 100%, I guarantee you it'll solve that buffering problem. I'll just have to start streaming at 720p. But you can't, like, decide which rate to stream at, because you have to be partnered for that. But I could start doing it at 720p, and I'm sure that will solve all of the issues. 720p standard for streaming. Yeah, I'm kind of a fucking idiot. I'm sorry. I did 1080 because I'm like, let's be high quality, you know. But I realized, yeah, I'm sorry. This is sick. This is... Thumbnails are my biggest obstacle. Not every thumbnail needs to be unique anymore. We need an industrial production of thumbnails. And I need to edit more to make more vids. And then I'll pump out videos on YouTube every day or every week. Until we have an industrial production of thumbnails, yeah, don't worry about this. Don't send thumbnails. We're gonna figure it out. You know, we're gonna internally we're gonna do it. Don't worry about it, guys. I think we're one of the only communities where you guys have genuinely actually helped us so much with like whenever we needed a thumbnail or anything and other stuff. Even the whole video, like Jetty made that whole video about Sansol. Yeah. I think it would work. I will, Jennifer. Next stream. The next stream we have is going to be 720p. Don't worry. I'm going to make sure, you know, we don't have... Yeah, shout out Genty, dude. I still am very grateful for what he did. Multiple destroyers were swarmed by mysterious drones. This is the new thing. Drone swarm warfare. Not a lot of people know about that. Super interesting. Chris Hedges explained... No, already saw this. Let's look at what's new. 2 types of leftists. You guys keep comparing me to this guy. Not this guy. Fuck. Matt Christman.
Trump and other prominent members of his administration are announcing to us that they intend to commit a coup in the United States.
So... I wanted to talk about...
Honest to God, this is what I would look like. This is what I'll look like in like 10 years. Dude, I'm just going to go bald. But I am going to have this hairline. 100% I will. But I'll just go bald, you know?
Something today. I wanted to talk about what I heard from a friend.
This isn't a fancy, you know, frivolous use of language.
A friend who heard it from another Trump is stealing the election. Down, down, down.
They have been broadcasting their intentions now for quite some time. And it is clear to me now...
Don't become a doomer like Matt is. He's a millennial, dude. What up, Great Gaddafi? It's crazy to see you. It's Lissandro. What the fuck? What's up, dude? He's here.
They are committed to the following plan.
and I can't believe it, and I can't conceive it, cause we're under the gun and Trump stealing the...
Dude, I love this song. Oh my god, dude. Don't make me get nostalgic and shit. This is my Michigan fucking summer song. Like, this is what plays on the radio in the summer of Michigan. When you go up north and shit. You go on lakes. And I can't believe it. You're taking me on and then taking on the run. You take it on the run, baby. 'Cause I don't believe it. You're taking them out when you take it on the run. Dude, I love that song. I don't like 80s songs, but I like that one. Because it just reminds me of Michigan. You think there's a problem with the modern left? It's not that they try to be the owl of Minerva. It's that they try to shoot the owl. They try to shoot the owl wherever they see it. Or they try to, they try to capture the owl. They try to catch the owl. Who's CM? Who's CM again? Am I stupid? CM? Who is that? Oh, Caleb. Shit. I thought because they were talking about something else, because I thought Caleb was saying confirmed they are racist, but CM, okay, I understand. Nice. Okay, I think that's it for the Reddit. Let's get right into the news. How about that, guys? Let's get right into the news. So I was deciding what we should check out first, because we have a few things. Thanks for the transcript, by the way. I just got it. We have a few things. The first thing is obviously we got to watch this news conference. Wow, what the fuck? Hold on. There's something else. Let me add this to the queue. Hold on. Let's kind of not do too much news, because we want to have on-stream call-ins. You know, we want to bring people on, but we're gonna have to limit the time. You know, we're gonna limit it to like 5 to 10 minutes so we can get enough people. First news conference. Wow. We're gonna watch the Fox one because it's the first one.
Oh, thank you. Thank you.
Is there a highlights, actually? Let me see if there's a highlights, because I don't want to watch all, an hour. Highlights. Key moments. Okay. It's only 3 minutes. I don't know if I trust MSM to, like, give us the juicy highlights. Okay, we're going to watch Tucker, because Tucker will be hard on him. So, we're going to watch Tucker's coverage.
Good evening and welcome to Tucker Carlson Tonight.
And then after Tucker's, we're going to watch the other highlights so we can get, a balanced perspective.
Joe Biden finally gave his first press conference this afternoon. No president has ever waited this long to answer.
Joe Biden. Okay. Joe Biden, wake up. Joe Biden, wake up. This is message from Mohammed Khalaqin. Joe Biden, wake up. Joe Biden, wake up. I want to bring him on stream.
Answer questions in public. And as of just yesterday, we were not still entirely sure it would happen. A reporter at the White House saw Biden ambling around and asked him if he was ready for his first press
This is a message from Mohammed Khalaqin. Can we have a call is done?
Conference. What
No more Iran, no more Turkey, no more Syria. Mohammed Khalaqin come to Kurdistan.
Press conference, Biden replied. Apparently, in the end, somebody told him. A staffer pointed Biden toward the tape mark on the floor and gave him a shove. Biden shuffled.
Oh yeah, I'll speed it up, obviously.
Forth and started talking, and pausing, and then talking some more, and then pausing. You've heard the term pregnant pause. Joe Biden's pauses were third trimester quintuplets. These pauses were ready to burst. Here's one of them.
So the best way to get something done, if you hold.
Do I know what's going on with Brazil? Absolutely no idea. If you share anything in the news, I'll check it out.
Near and dear to you that you like to be able to. Anyway, we're ready to get a lot done.
Got that, America? We're going to get a lot done. A lot. Of course, we'll get a lot more done and confuse far fewer people if we go ahead and read our policy positions from small pieces of paper that others have painstakingly prepared for us. That way we won't lose consciousness in mid-sentence or accidentally start a war. So when the topic of North Korea arose...
Oh, he was released. Wow. Yeah, I should have... Shit, I didn't have time to prepare, like, get a full news cycle today to get all the news. But wow, he was released. Can he run again, or is he barred?
Joe Biden knew exactly what to do. He found his piece of paper and he started reading the words that had been written on it.
We're consulting with our allies and partners, and there will be responses if they choose to escalate. We will respond accordingly. But I'm also prepared for some form of diplomacy.
It's got to be pretty intimidating to the North Koreans, who of course are watching it in real time.
He can run. Wow. So, what do you? I don't know the situation, but is he? How's his chances? Because I heard he's like too popular in Brazil that they had to, you know.
They've got nukes in Pyongyang now. That means they probably have cable TV too. Don't underestimate these people. They're crafty. Of course, the North Koreans were already deeply afraid of Joe Biden. They know that he means business. They remember the time that Biden beat the crap out of the entire Kim family with a chain. He and Nelson Mandela back in '86. You've heard the story. They've lived it. It's part of their lore. And now this. North Korea is facing not just Joe Biden's masculinity, but an entire piece of paper with instructions on it that Joe Biden is perfectly willing to read anytime he needs to. That cue card is Joe Biden's secret weapon in the fight against nuclear proliferation.
Hold on. I'm going to check this out. Amazon workers strike in Italy. Wow. 75% of employees struck. Yeah, Amazon reported it's like political. The company employs more than 9,500 workers directly across the country. Wow, how did they organize it? The strike took place means a major campaign by the trade unions in the United States to secure recognition of. Wow. The unions did not raise a single concrete demand relating to wages, working hours, or conditions as the reason for the action. Rather, their central demand is that Amazon agree to negotiate with them on terms of a national agreement and establish stable trade. So it looks like the established unions in Italy were clashing with Amazon. But you guys have to keep in mind that this is not a spontaneous action. This is established Italian unions that already exist and that are national unions that are driving this. But wow, interesting. I think people need to look at the national element of this though, because this is, you can also view this in the context of there's nothing. Okay, let me say something else controversial. This is not internationalist proletarian solidarity going on. This is a situation of a sovereign Italian national unions are clashing with an American foreign corporation about the conditions and circumstances of the workplace. So you guys have to keep that in mind. Don't just look at this and automatically think, you know, this is the fertile ground of 20th century style proletarian international, you know, revolution. It's not. But, you know, obviously, progressive people in Italy are going to be definitely on the case, you know. But you guys got to remember that these are national established unions. You guys got to keep that in mind. This isn't like, you know. Let's read more. The United States, the DSA is attempting to strike as an argument for strengthening trade union apparatuses. Italy's anti strikes the workers to unite. Well, you have to have the strong unions in place in the first place. The last 2 decades of Italian Confederacy, the process of institutionalization fueled the process of incorporation into the Italian state. This is what. Okay, this is the key thing right here. You just got it right here. The key thing. In the last 2 decades, Italian confederational unions went through a process of institutionalization following an embrace of social dialogue and corporatism from the 1990s onwards, which fueled a process of incorporation into the Italian state. Unions gained access to policymaking, but in exchange, conceded wave devaluation and an end to industrial conflict. This especially hurt the union's ability to mobilize the periphery of the labor market, notably the emerging logistics industry. Okay. And what has happened to this? Okay? Regardless of those concessions, nothing like this happened in America. The American unions, they don't have any type of leverage compared to this. They've been weakened, tremendously weakened, you know? This is the key thing. I want you guys to pay attention to this. This is so important. Literally, this is so important. Okay? The only thing they're doing is that their aim is to force Amazon back to the negotiating table to establish the normal industrial relations that exist in other sectors. In other words, Italian unions were incorporated into the Italian state, and they came to a certain understanding that there's going to be a normal level of standards for Italian industries. Amazon came to Italy and is bypassing those standards, so this is where the union is intervening. So there's a political and national element of sovereignty versus this kind of globalization, whatever, Amazon, American union. I mean, that's the key thing here. This is not spontaneous workers' strikes like how it happened in the 19th century or the 20th century, where locally workers just went on strike and it just spontaneously happened. There's a deeply political and national aspect to this that can't be taken for granted in America. In America, you know, yeah. But interesting news. Let's get back to Tucker though, because we got to come back to America, even though we're kind of in an international platform. All right, one last thing. What is this? To the Communist Party of the Socialist Republic of Vietnam. This is the Liberation Road thing. All right.
You can breathe easy, America. And that's good news because we've got problems of our own in this country. One of our biggest problems is voting. It's getting harder and harder to vote. There are some people in America, bigots, let's just call them what they are, who are demanding that we know voters' identities before we let them choose our government. They want people to show IDs at the polls, if you can even imagine, in 2021. These bigots, Joe Biden explained today, are Republicans.
And so I'm convinced that we'll be able to stop this because it is the most...
Unions operate on principles of power. Leftists don't get that in our... Yeah. Very true, King John. In the 21st century especially, unions are inherently political. If they don't have some kind of connection to a political power of some kind, whether that's the state in the case of Italy, or it's alternative, opposition party that wields a tremendous amount of power and leverage over the state, as is a hypothetical scenario in the case of America, there's no pure union economic struggle anymore. There's no such thing.
Pernicious thing. This makes Jim Crow look like Jim Eagle.
Jim Eagle? Who's Jim Eagle? A comic book hero from the 50s? Some kind of dog-faced pony soldier? We didn't know who Jim Eagle was, so we went scurrying to our Google machines to look it up. Then we realized, we're being way too literal here. It's an analogy. Crow, eagle. They're both birds, but an eagle is much bigger than a crow.
To be fair, I understood that.
Means that asking people to show a driver's license when they vote is much more racist than segregation and lynchings. Segregation and lynchings were Jim Crow. Voter IDs are Jim Eagle. Way worse. And that makes sense when you think about it. Most black people don't have government-issued IDs, and that's why they can't drive cars, or fly in airplanes, or hold jobs.
Super weird irony of this is that Biden himself was a segregation-era Democrat. I mean...
Or stay in hotels, or go to the doctor, or cash checks, or sign rental agreements, or buy homes, or open bank accounts, or purchase Sudafed at CVS. Black people can't do any of those things because they don't have IDs. Millions and millions of them don't have IDs, and it's sad, as Joe Biden often points out. Now, you might think the solution to this tragedy would be make it easier for Americans to get IDs. Subsidize them if you have to. No. Joe Biden has a better idea. Just make sure...
Okay, on that topic, guys, I don't know if you live in the United States, but getting a fucking ID, like a driver's license, is the most... Everyone has... I've never heard of someone who had a good experience at the fucking DMV. I don't know if it's the same in other states. That's what they call it, the DMV, the Department of Motor, whatever. You have to wait 5 hours every time you fucking go to get your ID. and I'm not exaggerating, are you planning on getting your ID? We'll prepare to take the whole fucking day off just to do it. Yeah. It's super inefficient, super outdated. And that's why Americans hate government.
No one ever has to show an ID in order to vote. And that way, the millions and millions and millions of African Americans who somehow don't have IDs won't feel bad or left out. They still won't be able to drive cars or have jobs or bank accounts or live anywhere, but at least they can vote a lot. And the rest of us won't be racist. Problem solved. As Joe Biden just told us, he's going to get a lot done. And not just in the next 4 years, by the way, but in the 4 years.
Marathon oil workers fight for safety in Nebraska. Wow. Teamsters. Yeah, that's a real union. Locked out Marathon oil refinery workers continue to picket here 24/7. 200 workers. Wow. After a one-day strike, the central issues of the fighting. You are fighting not just for yourselves, but the safety of the community surrounding the refinery where you work. Huh. Wow. What's their chances for success? What do you think? I don't know anything about the situation on the ground, but... wow. Nebraska. $200, wow. What are their chances?
Years after that, Joe Biden is running again. He told us that today, too. By the end of his second term, Joe Biden will be 86 years old. That's a full decade past the life expectancy of the average American man, which, for the record, Joe Biden has already exceeded. But there's nothing average about Joe Biden. Time improves him. Like certain varieties of artisanal cheese, Joe Biden is meant to be aged. He just gets sharper and more pungent. His next campaign will be even tastier. Watch.
Have you decided whether you are going to run for re-election in 2024? You haven't set up a re-election campaign yet, as your predecessor had by this time.
My predecessor needed to. My predecessor. Oh, God, I miss him. No, the answer is yes. My plan is to run for re-election. That's my.
What did he just say? Oh, God, I miss him? Wow.
Expectation.
My plan is to run for re-election. Now, we weren't in the room when Joe Biden said that, but according to those who were, there was an audible gasp of horror from behind the curtain. Sources said it sounded very much like Kamala Harris. We can't confirm that, but we can tell you that Joe Biden has already picked a theme for his next campaign. The theme is unity. Now, wait a second, you might be thinking. Wasn't unity the theme of Biden's last campaign, the one that just ended in November? Yes, it was. But that wasn't enough unity. There is more unity on the way, ladies and gentlemen. Bucket loads of it, tractor trailer loads full. Imagine every swimming pool in Malibu topped to the brim with unity, and then add all the pools in Bel Air. That's how much unity we're talking about. And by unity, of course, we mean policies that make Americans hate each other much more than they ever have. That's what Joe Biden has given us so far, and soon we'll have more.
The third reason I said I was running.
What's this? Massachusetts over dangerous understand. You know, one thing that this platform, if we get big, Infrared can do, is that, being real, guys, 800 people. 800 people is no small number. That's a lot of fucking people, you know? The problem is media. Nobody gives these things attention, you know? But I hope that our platform will grow to a point where we can start being a platform to give this type of shit attention. You know, we can just we can cover it and we can spin them politically and make it entertaining to watch. So we can talk about these things on stream. And we can show people that's an example that it can work, that they've done it here, you could do it there. Yeah, we could interview union officials. We could do things. There's a lot of things we could do with our platform, you know. A big problem is the lack of media attention. So we could use our platform for that. And, you know, I hope we'll get to that point, you know.
Was to unite the country. And generically speaking, all of you said, no, you can't do that. Well, I've not been able to unite the Congress, but I've been uniting the country based on the polling data. We have to come together.
You know, I'm not going to critique anyone, but in terms of all the lefty streamers on Twitch, they never really cover anything like that. You know, they never focus attention on these kinds of things. And I get that it's hard to make those entertaining and engaging, that an audience will care about them, but I don't know. I feel like it's better than just kind of this. Okay, I'm just gonna name Hassan. Like, every time I watch Hassan, he's always like, "There's nothing we could do. We're fucked. We're doomed." It's like, dude, but you have the attention of like over 20K people. That's a huge achievement. And there's a lot you could do with that. You could do a lot with that, dude. It's not, you know, you yourself have a lot of, you know, reach. And I get that, you know, if you can easily lose that reach if you're not entertaining people. And I 100% get that, but, you know, you could still do a lot with it, you know?
Oh, the polling data, the real currency of Washington. Now, we haven't checked the polling data ticker today, but we have to tell you that we approach this one specific claim with some degree of skepticism. Not every one of Joe Biden's unifying policies has fully unified the country just yet. There's still some crotchety holdouts deep in the American interior who aren't fully sold on his fresh new program of being humiliated, berated, disarmed, and taxed into poverty and powerlessness. Those people are bigots, obviously. They're probably friends with the snake-handling evangelical freaks who complain when some dude shows up at their 8-year-old daughter's locker room. But whatever, you can't please everyone. You know who you can please, though, if you're Joe Biden? The media. The reporters are highly pleased. They're one group that remains utterly united in their love and support of Joe Biden, and the polling data show it. Joe Biden knows this well, but he's not pandering to reporters. Joe Biden is bigger than that. It's not like the Washington Post is a credit card company from Delaware. He doesn't need to slobber on them. So today, Joe Biden explained that despite his massive successes on our southern border, the ones you're seeing on TV, he is not ready to show reporters exactly what he's doing down there. That's for him to know and them to find out.
We haven't seen the facilities in which children are packed together to really give the American people a chance to see that. Will you commit to transparency on this issue?
I will commit to transparency, and as soon as I'm in a position to be able to implement what we're doing right now.
Well, that's kind of unusual. You don't often hear a politician admit that he's rejecting openness and embracing secrecy. They usually lie about that, but not Joe Biden. Biden tends to say the unspoken things out loud. We're as opaque as a shower curtain, he told the press corps today, and there's nothing you can do about it. It's pretty provocative. Of course it is, but provocative in a way that reporters enjoy. They're naughty, those reporters. They like to be teased. Deny them what they ask for, and they want more. Here's a lady from state media, National Public Radio, flush with wonder as she describes the remarkable personal qualities of her boss, Joe Biden.
You've said over and over again that immigrants shouldn't come to this country. Right now, this is the time to come. That message is not being received. Instead, the perception of you that got you elected as a moral, decent man is the reason why a lot of immigrants are coming to this country and entrusting you with unaccompanied minors.
When you call a man moral and decent in your question to him, it kind of sets the frame, as they say. But the bottom line is a moral, decent man is running this country, ladies and gentlemen. That's the message of unity. By the way, it's a required message. So repeat it to yourself 5 times, and then repeat it to everyone you know. If you don't, you're racist.
I want to check out the friendly highlights now. The ABC one. It's owned by Disney, so. Damn, look at this. Look at this dislike ratio. Holy shit. Okay, clearly they find this very biased. Press announcement, not press conference. Yeah, they didn't really grill him. Wow, we're going to check this out a little more. People...
December 8th, I indicated that I hope to get 100 million shots in people's arms in my first 100 days. We met that goal last week by day 58, 42 days ahead of schedule. Now today I'm setting a second goal, and that is we will, by my 100th day...
Something I think Trump did really well is he revealed how much it's all about ego. And you could really tell Biden is just bragging here in a really similar way Trump used to, you know? Trump was just more open about it. Okay, Leninist. I get it, dude. There's a lot. There's a lot of stuff, okay, dude? You don't have to spam me with every fucking article. Workers in Manchester and beyond have joined the picket line and... Okay. The bosses are determined to break the strike. They have relocated. Did they win or did they just win solidarity? They won solidarity. Did they win in terms of getting their demand? The boss is determined to break the strike. They have relocated. They're... 40 co-workers. It's interesting. You know? But if you're just going to give me stuff from strikes all around the world, dude, we're just going to be, you know, I'm sorry to say, but we're not going to learn anything, you know? We're just going to, you know, be looking at articles from strikes everywhere across the world, which are happening all the time, you know? Let's see. Yeah, the strike's not over, so I don't think they won. But we gotta chill, dude.
In office have administered 200 million shots in people's arms. Those who are coming across the border who are unaccompanied children were moving rapidly to try to put in place what was dismantled, as I said. For example, of all the children who are coming across the border, over 70% are either 16 or 17 years old. We're not talking about people ripping babies from mother's arms or little 3-year-olds.
Was it, what was the percentage in the Trump era? This is what I'm curious about.
Standing on the border, less than, I think it's 1.5% fall in the category of the very young. The idea that I'm going to say, which I would never do, if an unaccompanied child ends up at the border, we're just going to let them starve to death and stay on the other side. No previous administration did that either, except Trump. I'm not going to do it. I'm not going to do it.
Did he do that? I don't know if he did that. Did Trump say that?
Deciding that you're going to end voting at 5 o'clock when working people...
It just seems like Biden is willing to virtue signal about it, but that doesn't really tell us about how the people at the border themselves are acting. It's not like Biden just sacked everyone who was working at the border and replaced them with entirely new people. I mean, I'm pretty sure the people like who are actually the guards at the border are the same people. So
people are just getting off work, deciding that there will be no absentee ballots under the most rigid circumstances. It's all designed, and I'm going to spend my time doing 3 things. 1, trying to figure out how to pass the legislation passed by the House, number 1. Number 2, educating the American public. The Republican voters I know find this despicable. Republican voters. The folks out outside this White House. I'm not talking about the elected officials. I'm talking about voters. Voters.
Have you decided whether you are going to run for re-election in 2024? You haven't set up a re-election campaign yet, as your predecessor had by this time.
My predecessor needed to. My predecessor. Oh, God, I miss him. No, the answer is yes. My plan is to run for re-election. That's my expectation. No American president ever backed down from speaking out of what's happening in the Uyghurs, what's happening in Hong Kong, what's happening in country. That's who we are. The moment a president walks away from that, as the last one did, is the moment we begin to lose our legitimacy around the world. It's who we are. So I see stiff competition with China. China has an overall goal, and I don't criticize them for the goal, but they have an overall goal to become the leading country in the world, the wealthiest country in the world, and the most powerful country in the world. That's not going to happen on my watch.
I mean, it's probably not going to happen under your watch because judging by how your eyes looked just last year, it doesn't look like much falls under your watch at all. It looks like your field of vision is very narrow and probably doesn't extend past a few feet ahead of you. I don't know how anything gets in your watch.
Hi, everyone.
Not under my watch. I mean, probably not, no, because you're going to be sleeping. That was cute. Let's see politicos. Wow, look at these dislike ratios are off the wall.
Please sit down. Thank you. Thank you. We will, by my 100th day in office, have administered 200 million shots in people's arms. That's right, 200 million shots in 100 days. I know it's ambitious, twice our original goal, but no other country in the world has even come close.
You've said over and over again that immigrants shouldn't come to this country right now. This isn't the time to come. That message is not being received. Instead, the perception of you that got you elected as a moral, decent man is the reason why a lot of immigrants are coming to this country and entrusting you with unaccompanied minors.
Well, look, I guess I should be flattered. People are coming because I'm the nice guy. That's the reason why it's happening. If an unaccompanied child ends up at the border, we're just going to let them starve to death and stay on the other side. Trump.
So do you believe it should take 60 votes to end a filibuster on legislation or 51?
It's not.
You know, this is a really weird press conference. It seems like people are just lining up to kiss his ass. And I've never seen a press conference with, that was like this with Trump.
Not my expertise in what the parliamentary rules and how to get there are, but our preoccupation with the filibuster is totally legitimate. But in the meantime, we got a lot we can do.
He doesn't really strike me as very presidential. What do you guys think? Just a neutral, non-political observation of some kind. As a layman, he doesn't really strike me as a president. He seems like he's like a secretary, or he's a stand-in for. We don't know who the president. It seems like the president is in occultation, and this is just kind of like a manager or something. He seems like a manager. Yeah, he seems like a Walmart supervisor. There's nothing really presidential about him. Trump was very presidential because he was a character. He was a very elephantine kind of character. Even Obama was a unique personality as well. Obama, he was also a character. Look, all presidents that have been within my lifetime had this quality of being able to animate the crowd. It's almost like they have a special touch that just allows them to kind of set the mood and, exude this sense of presidentialness. Even George W., even him. Biden, I think, is the first president in my lifetime that really doesn't strike me as a president at all. There's nothing presidential. I don't look at this guy and I don't think this is the president. I just think this is some kind of manager or special, supervisor or something.
While we're talking about what we're going to do about the filibuster.
Regarding the filibuster,
the problem with him is that he doesn't have the forcefulness of a president, and it's because of his health situation. He doesn't have this kind of active persona or personality.
at John Lewis's funeral, President Barack Obama said he believed the filibuster was a relic of the Jim Crow era. Do you agree?
Yes.
If not, why not abolish it if it's a relic of the Jim Crow era?
Let's figure out how we can get this done and move in the direction of significantly changing the abuse of even the filibuster rule first.
It sounds like you're moving closer to eliminating the filibuster. Is that correct?
I answered your question.
I want to go back to voting rights. Are you worried that if you don't manage to pass voting rights legislation?
Okay, Mr. Judo, I agree with you, but I don't think it's allowed on Twitch, so let's chill.
That your party is going to lose seats and possibly lose control of the House and the Senate in 2022.
What I'm worried about is how un-American this whole initiative is. It's sick. It's sick. And so I'm convinced that we'll be able to stop this because it is the most pernicious thing. This makes Jim Crow look like Jim Eagle.
Have you decided whether you are going to run for re-election in 2024? You haven't set up a re-election.
All right, I think that's enough of Biden. I think we've got the gist of his news conference, which was not that much. He covered the border. He said we're going to be moving out thousands of kids out quickly. I got Force Bliss opened up. That's why I've been... Okay, we'll see. The COVID-19 vaccines. Reopening schools. Schools are... Half of them are open, K through 8. Stimulus payments. Infrastructure. Physical and technological infrastructure in the country. In Pittsburgh, across the whole country. I wonder what that's going to look like. Voting rights, filibuster reform. We'll see. We'll see what happens. Does he have the executive power to abolish the filibuster? Would there be a way to eliminate it? The Senate has to do it. So I don't know how they would abolish this filibuster. The straightforward filibuster would formally change the text of the Senate Rule 22. How would you do that? Is there executive power? yeah, I don't know. I don't know how it would be possible. Okay. All right, I think I'm going to start taking call-ins now because we have more on the news. We don't actually have more news, we have content. And if we do the content first, we're not going to be able to get into any call-ins. So let's begin the call-ins now. We're going to be taking call-ins right about now. I'm going to get into the show queue. So you can see me on this right here. Right here, you can see me. Let's take 5 to 10 minute call-ins, and I'm going to time them. So don't say I'm being rude if I cut you off. You know, please, more news. I'm really sleepy. Okay, we'll do more news. We'll do more news. Okay, we'll do more news. I'm going to let people prepare to get into... I want people to prepare for the call-in. So prepare to get in the show queue. And when we're done with the news, we'll continue. We have more news, though. We do have more news. So just prepare yourselves, guys. This is something I found super sus. And I've been having this working schizo theory. And I wanted to share it with you guys. Prince Harry has taken up a second job in 2 days, this time at the Commissioner for the Aspen Institute, examining the state of American misinformation and disinformation. So in the Discord, I came up with a crazy idea. Any debates? Maybe. I heard Destiny said something, and maybe I'll go on Destiny's show today. I don't know. I'll have to check Twitch. Let me see. Is he on Twitch right now? Let's see. Yeah, he's playing a game called Darkwood.
Destiny.
He's not doing anything, so we might be able to go on Destiny's show today. We might be doing that later today, like tonight. It might be happening tonight. So yeah, let's just look at this. This is paywalled, but let me tell you guys a working theory I've been having about this royal family. This is a completely schizo theory. It's left field. It's very unlikely. You know, it's probably not going to happen, but I want to get you guys thinking about it. So the media has been really focusing on this royal couple, and I wonder if they're going to start getting involved in American politics. And if I start seeing that they get involved in American politics, here's my theory. The Great Reset deep state wants to prop these two up to restore monarchy over America as an extension of the British rule, and that the conflict with the British royal family was completely artificial and fake, and that all of this is being set up to install them as the fucking monarchs of America. Now, you might find this crazy, but it would make total sense. Meghan Markle is she's mixed, she's part black, and that speaks to American culture and a significant portion of the American population. It looks like they're setting these people up to be the monarchs of America. I mean, let's speculate, guys. I don't know, you know. I don't know what the fuck is going on, but that sounds like something that would make sense. That sounds like something that would make sense. Do I have any evidence for it? No. Do I have any evidence at all to back this up? Absolutely none. But if these two start getting involved in American politics more, she's eligible, from what I hear, to run for president. So if she starts getting involved in politics, and if they start getting involved in politics at all, that's going to tell me that this was all set up and that they're being set up to... Because, yeah, America... remember when I told you guys America doesn't have a state? And I explained that through the lens of Hegel and all that kind of stuff. Well, stars are aligning, and it would make a lot of sense that the deep state and the elites think that some kind of constitutional monarchy, something like that, will solve America's crisis and solve its problem and heal its wounds or whatever. Yeah, this one's not paywalled. Prince Harry joins U.S. initiative to tackle fake news. Why? Why is he getting involved in this? 15 members of the Commission for Information Disorder set up by the Aspen Institute. The Aspen Institute has a sketchy background. It's tied to... Who is it tied to? funded by the Carnegie Corporation, the Rockefeller Brothers Fund, the Gates Foundation, the Lumina Foundation, and the Ford Foundation. These are just about the holy grail right here of conspiracy theorists. The Gates Foundation, Ford Foundation, the Rockefeller Brothers Fund, the Carnegie Corporation. But someone specifically is involved in this. And let me find the source, because Logo, the guy named Logo on Twitter, he was talking about this. Let me find the guy. Here he is. He was talking about this. Damn. Can't show that on stream. He was talking about it where?
If it holds near and dear to you that you
Let me find it. I'm looking for it right now. Here it is. So who's involved? It's bankrolled by the guy who started Craigslist, Craig Newark. This guy. This is who it's bankrolled by. And Craig's been a huge funder of PolitiFact and other such internet media fact-checking regulation. Super weird. Super sketchy. I mean, super weird. I don't know. That was my kind of schizo theory. There's no evidence for it. There's no justification for it. But do I believe it? Yes. Why do I believe it? I don't know. I have no idea. I want to believe it. I want to believe it because it's good optics. Not just because it's good optics, but because it just makes sense. I want to believe it because it makes sense, you know? I'm not going to try and say factually I know this is the truth, but I don't know. I'm pondering. I'm wondering. You know, I'm curious. I'm quite curious. So that was some news. I actually wanted to watch this. This is an hour long, and I wanted to personally watch it. So I was like, why don't I save it on stream? It's a young people debate about human rights in China and the U.S. So this is a debate set up by CGTN where people are going to debate about human rights in China versus the U.S. And I think this is super interesting, and I want to watch it. But I'm going to let you guys decide. Do we want to bring people on the show, or do we want to do this? Because nobody's in the show queue. Do this. People are boring. I want this. I agree. People are fucking boring. Let's do this. All right, let's check this out. We can go 1.5 speed. Let's do that. Callers, debate Destiny.
On CGTN, I'm Wang Guan in Beijing. There has been this age-old question. What are human rights? There are different points of view, obviously, in the United States. People pride themselves in...
I could actually DM Destiny now, and I could probably go on Destiny. He's not doing anything right now. He's just playing games. I could probably go on.
Having the right to vote, to assemble, to protest, and to freely express themselves. You think these rights made their country one of the greatest powers in the history of the world. Whereas in China and many other Asian civilizations, people argue that human rights should also entail the right to food, to shelter, to safety, health, and security, and that the collective rights should not be compromised at the expense of individual rights. In the United States, Trump's immigration policies were described by many as inhumane. The Black Lives Matter movement highlighted racial tensions, and the United States unfortunately registered the highest number of COVID-19 deaths. In China, there has also been concerns over violations of human rights, for example, over the freedom of speech, the treatment of Uyghurs in Xinjiang, and also on the issues...
Talking to Destiny would be a good move. But what would I talk to him about? Because if I talk to him, I have to be serious. It has to be a chill conversation. But what is the conversation going to be about? Oh, he's talking to Dylan Burns right now? Actually, let me check. Let me see. Do not go on his channel. Don't bother You know, don't do it, because I can just DM him, so don't worry. You don't have to like do anything.
Mouth like this time, like congratulations.
Hey, come on. That's
Which part of that don't you? I think that Lance is like.
Well, wait a second.
Easily
What
one
about
of
me?
like the most spineless fucks on this platform in terms of how he approaches like argumentation and everything. Absolutely.
Aren't I a nice person? Aren't I a nice person?
Yeah, but you weren't part of that debate. What do you mean
Okay, let's just watch this, and by the time we're done with this, we're going to get into we're gonna go on Destiny probably tonight.
In Hong Kong. So, which side is right? The debate never ends. Today I'm very pleased to be joined by 8 brilliant young men and women, and they're here to debate this enduring question. Which country's record of human rights supports humans more? China or
Talk
China?
philosophy, but Destiny said he only cares about policy, you know? I could probably try to I don't think he's dogmatic about like what communism and socialism means. It's just that it has to be relevant. Yeah, it needs to be something concrete, you know? That's what I think too. Destiny's not really like an intellectual, you know? He's more focused on
United States. The proposition team argues that China's
he enjoys philosophical combos.
human rights record supports humans more, whereas the opposition team argues the human rights record of the United States supports humans more. Now let me quickly introduce the team members. Zoom Ahmed Han, researcher at Tsinghua University. Also Shenzhou Rome, lecturer at Beijing International Studies University. Enoch Wang, Schwarzman scholar at Tsinghua University. Sunny Miwati, director of academics at the National...
I want to talk I can talk Destiny about like Heidegger and modernity and what we think is philosophy and things like that, you know?
National High School Debate League of China. From the opposition team, we have with us Veronica Ludaka, student at China Women University. Wang Yixiao, president of Peking University English Debating Society. Also Yekaterina Kolobrivaya, master student at Peking University. Last but not least, Wang Yuhang, international journalism and communication student from Tsinghua University. Welcome to all of you. Now let's get right to it. The constructive speech part, that is the first session of today's debate. Let's get right to it. Each team will have 4 minutes to make their case. When there is 30 seconds left, we will let you know by the ring of a bell. Now, I would like to invite the first speaker of the day, Zoom Ahmed Han. You may proceed.
Thank you. Thank you, Wang Guan. Ladies and gentlemen, today the proposition proudly proposes that it is not the United States, but China, whose human rights record and whose actions and policies have supported human beings more, have supported, in our understanding, human rights more. It is not the idea of human rights that matters. It is not ideals that matter, but in reality, the consequences of the policies that a country promotes, that a country pursues. If we look at China, China is a country that supports, to a great extent, collectivism, that supports the notion that the society has to come together and make sure that those that are worst off are being taken care of. It is in this very spirit that domestically China has been able to uplift 750 million people out of poverty. It is also in this spirit that amidst COVID-19, when unfortunately countries that supposedly are the custodians of human rights and individual rights whose policies have resulted in drastic consequences and loss of human life, it is China that prioritized the lives before everything else. And today we see the consequences of that have also been positive on the economy. We see that despite the fact that China has had to compromise on economic growth, they prioritize uplifting people from absolute poverty once again. And we saw a lot
Should I slower the speed, or is this a good speed, guys? Because I kind of think the speed should be lowered a bit. But I'll bring it back if you guys want.
November, that these people in China are the ones that have benefited from a trajectory, a mindset. Now let's look more broadly. China is now a country whose international approach is increasing, whose regional initiatives are picking up pace as well. And here we will talk about the Belt and Road Initiative, of course, because this is an initiative that has helped uplift countries and communities from a vicious cycle of poverty, from a vicious cycle of destruction. This is an initiative that is today helping...
Yeah, it's at 1.2. It's at 1.25 right now.
Employ millions of people across developing countries, helping enhance opportunities for them. And I believe, as a person representing the proposition, that these are very important realities that need to be recognized. Rights, human rights, as much as we wish them, are not handed on a silver platter. It is easy to say that people are born with rights, people are born with human dignity, but the reality is that proactive approach is required to make sure that people's rights are delivered to them. And there I believe that out of both these options, between China and the US, China is domestically as well as regionally playing a more positive role. So once again, we would like to say that China has, in practicality, promoted human rights, human dignity, domestically and abroad, and unfortunately, that is less so the case for the United States. Thank you.
Zhu Hamethan, thank you so much for your opening statement. Now, I would like to invite Veronica Ludaka from the opposition team to make her case. Veronica, please.
Thank you. It's important for us to understand why human rights are universal and inalienable, and not only Chinese or American. This is why you cannot lose these rights and cannot be denied a right just because a state has decided that it is less important or not essential. So this is why by birthright you're entitled to free trial, free speech, free assembly, right to religion, and privacy, just to mention a few. Therefore, any state who revises these rights in the name of state security or making any excuses is just pretending their visions of these human rights. Unfortunately, USA and China hold different political ideologies. She already mentioned that China takes collectivism, which is a socialist approach, while USA is democratic. So for us to understand which of the two systems from a broader perspective supports human rights more, let me start by explaining these two systems so that we can make our point broader. In democracy, power is vested in the people through representation, and people have the right.
I think she's saying that human rights is individualism, something like that.
To choose.
It's based on individual human rights.
Based on their critical analysis. And government decisions are a direct influence of the people. For example, policies are implemented from the bottom-up approach. Policies are made for man and not man for the policies. So when you look at socialism, which is China, the approach is where top officials, guided by party ideologies, tend to take center stage, which can create a social distance resulting to the ignorance of human rights. Policies reflect the interest of a party and not of the people, which is not a clear definition of human rights. Otherwise, the UNDHR would not have had a meeting to implement human rights in the first place. So whatever comes from the government does not depict the interest of the people, but the interest of a category of people, which is the party. Statistics, which come from an independent source, Freedom House, rates China as the second lowest possible rank in political freedoms. So let's look at statistics in the USA, just so we can make our point clear. The United States is generally given high to fair marks on human rights. For example, the Freedom in the World Index lists United States the highest category for freedom of expression in civil and political rights, with 86 out of 100 points. The CIR human rights data places the US 38th overall in human rights. United States is also considered to have a high degree of press freedom, with the 2017 Freedom of Press report by Freedom House labeling the level of press freedom in the United States as free, ranking it 33rd out of 199 countries. Let me go on to say that in democracy and in communism, you have a choice and accountability. Democracy, people have the ability and right to question, open criticism, and right of choice. If they're not satisfied, they hold a government accountable. This is where you see United States Senate able to impeach a whole president because they deem him not fit to lead the people and he's violating human rights.
Well, guys, it's a fucking debate, so you gotta hear both sides. Let's hear her argument, and then we'll see how they respond.
And because USA, to become a leader, no matter if we're talking about personal growth or nations, one should be proud of their strengths, but also acknowledge their weaknesses, identify their role models, and admire them. Aim to surpass them over time by doing better work. Awareness shouldn't make anyone anxious or feel vulnerable, but rather more grounded and realistic. Thank you.
Thank you, Veronica. Now I would like to invite the second speaker to make opening statements. First, from the proposition team, Shen Zhouron, please.
Thank you, my colleagues from the opposition side. First of all, I'd like to respond to some of the points you just mentioned. I'd like to point out politely that political system today is not under debate. We're actually talking about which country supports more human rights. So it's always about the concrete results. It's always about who delivers. And also you've mentioned, you've mentioned about the freedom of speech. I want to point out that I want to quote a very famous line. "Oh, liberty, what crimes have been committed in thy name?" Just because you have freedom of speech does not mean that it could guarantee see the human rights. For example, Donald Trump's freedom of speech were well protected, but he had incited many riots and many misconceptions about the prevention of COVID, which actually harmed more human rights than it supported. And after that, even the freedom of speech of Donald Trump was banned. Isn't that?
This is a super paradoxical thing we're dealing with. Is that the problem is that liberals in the U.S. are jumping through, they're doing Olympic twists and just to say, oh, well, that's not a matter of freedom of speech. They're inventing new words. That's a matter of incitement, or that's a matter of election interference, or that's a matter of they're spinning it in new ways to maintain the sanctity and purity of liberalism, but it's just not working.
Ironic. And I would like to point out that there are universality and particularities of human rights. China embraces a human right that centers on the people, not some hollowed up in the air ideals. And people are what the human rights are all about. And I'd like to point out that China has lifted 750 million people out of poverty, contributing to more than 80% of the total population that has been lifted out of poverty globally. And I would also like to say that the human rights cause in China was about supporting people, not just in terms of economy, but also in terms of health, education, environment, and development, as my teammate just mentioned. Now let's take a look at the US. Let's take a look at its atrocious human rights record. First of all, let's talk about the warmongering effort of the United States. Ever since the World War II, the US had its fingers on almost every wars since that. DPRK, Iran, Iraq, Syria, Afghanistan, the list goes on and on. Isn't it ironic to see a country that wages wars against other countries in the name of respecting the rule of law, respecting the human rights of other countries? Well, in fact, what they're doing is rape women, is to torture the prisoner of wars, and to kill civilians randomly. They have wiped out millions of people with their social engineering, with their regime change, with their intervention, and with their wars. So I'm wondering if, in the minds of the US, only the human rights of Americans are worth protecting and worth supporting. Oh, wait a minute, it isn't. Let's look at what happens in the United States. The US does support human rights more, only if you're white. Human rights defined by the Constitution is just a fine line is only the last fine line to protect human rights. That's nowhere near to support it. Equality sounds nice in Constitution, but in fact, black lives only matter because they have suffered too long from a systemic oppression on the rights of minorities. And the institutionalized discrimination against the minorities has been existing for as long as there is America. Minorities face unjust treatment in every aspect of their lives, be it education, health, and employment.
He's taking liberal talking points. He's gone woke. Well, you have to understand that the Chinese are not used to dealing with the internal politics of other countries. They are used to minding their own business. But just recently, maybe the past year, I guess, because America has been up all in China's business, China is looking at the prevailing internal criticisms that are being levied against America, and they're looking at the ones that are internal to China itself. But I think these are more or less, these are not really objectionable points he's raising. Yeah, exactly. He's talking liberal talking points because those are the ones that are ready at hand and prevail. But as time goes on, China is going to start realizing that, this is my prediction, I don't know, I could be wrong, that China is going to have to start taking internal politics of America more seriously. And what that's going to evolve into and look like is going to be very interesting to see. I already have my own suspicions and predictions about what it's going to be like. But we're looking at the very immature stages of China's critique of the U.S. All right, let's watch.
Excuses me that Sigmund Freud takes his lifelong effort at psychology to earn his name, but George Floyd only takes one line to be famous around the world. That is when he is trampled under the knee of a policeman, saying, "I can't breathe." Thank you.
Thank you, Shen Jerome. Next up from the opposition team, Mr. Wang Yixiao.
Hello, everyone. Firstly, I would like to have 3 quick responses towards your point. The first point is about how China outlived this kind of like poverty, right?
Wow, this is the university in Beijing. So this guy's in China. He's actually Chinese himself, it seems like. And he's on the English debate team in China. But it's in China. It's all located in China. So why aren't they censoring him? I thought China censors all criticism of the state or whatever, you know?
We admit that it is correct, but today's debate is about comparative, right? You should know that U.S. already have like more people, more proportion like middle classes, which means that people in the U.S. are comparatively richer, right? But secondly, they talk about how U.S. have this kind of intervention and like to other countries and how it can make things worse in these kind of countries. The first response to that is that at least U.S. try to protect human rights, but secondly, we told you that they don't tell us what is a comparative look like, right? For instance, what will like USSR intervene in these kind of things? Will things be better at their side of the house? I don't think that is the case, right? But thirdly, we tell you that even all the case is true, still at our side of the house, it's comparatively better because US have a kind of like self-reflection system. You can hold those kind of like bad behavior accountable. For example, like they say Donald Trump, right? Donald Trump just lose to Biden, right? We can see those kind of system has its own self-correction like system to enable a better outcome at the end of the day. So what am I going to tell you in this speech? I'm going to talk about 2 points. The first is about how US can better ensure political rights and why it is essentially a human right, right? Because I think the other side is saying, no, it's not a human right. You should always look about the consequences, right? But secondly, I will also talk about privacy. Now, firstly, on political rights, we all know that US have this kind of election, right? And China has this kind of like representation who actually represent you, right? The first problem of this is that a lot of times, I don't even know who is actually representing me, right? It's just like a form or kind of process that you need to go through, and that the people are already determined before you even choose, right? But secondly, it makes like corruption more easier to happen because when minority group of people are actually holding this kind of power, it actually means that those kind of corruption is more likely to happen. The comparative here is that in US, even if you still, these kind of politics are related to financial like situation, for example, you still have this kind of lobbying, but at least those kind of things are on the table. The people can see those kind of lobbying, right? But also, those kind of people who actually have their own incentive to like for promotion, for like security of their own position, they're more likely to suppress people's voices, right? When people actually want to have like reflection or report on these group of people, right? Even if it is best case at their side of the house, we still think that the people need to wait for the government to like solve the problems for them. The comparative is that the citizens at the US can actively vote to actually voice out their own voices. Why do we think that it is essentially a human right that you need to have, right? Because
by the way, guys, look at these people on this side. These are what MLs look like, by the way. This is what MLs in the age of multipolarity in the post-COVID world look like. You guys got to understand that.
Because we think that a lot of times the government have like power towards you, which means that they are oftentimes make those kind of
No, I'm not.
Policies.
I'm saying they look normal. They look presentable. They look modern. They look, decent. They're not like LARPing and weird and, all this kind of stuff.
Actively affect your life, right? There's no way for you to actively fight back against these kind
Look
of...
at that. Look at how professional and modern and stuff they are. This is what they look like in the 21st century.
Right?
So Malpa's was right when he said we all need to start wearing suits. No, not necessarily. He didn't say that, but I'm just saying, yeah, I mean, in this context, you should be wearing... I mean, I kind of go with the Iranian fashion where you don't wear a tie. I don't like ties. I'm against ties. But you have to look nice for something like this. I mean, for something like this, and guys, Caleb's a professional. He's a reporter. So he has to look professional, and if you're in this formal setting, you should look professional,
You cannot fight back because the government always have polices, the government have military forces, which means that the people should have the right to reflect back their choices to the government. Now, further extension on the privacy, I want to point out a very vivid example happening around me, right? We all have this kind of remote exam during COVID-19. A lot of my US classmates told me that they just protest this kind of camera when you are actually surveillance on people, whether they're cheating or not, right? But in China, we just accept this kind of arrangement, right? I think this kind of privacy is so important. It's also human right because, as already said, the state has already have enough power. If you give up your privacy, which means that the state have even more power over you. But secondly, it's about how you actively have this kind of feeling of being safe. This kind of feeling is so important because it will actually affect how you speak out on the internet or on other platforms. Thank you.
All right, thank you very much for the opening statements. Now, we're entering the crossfire session. The third debater of the proposition side raises questions to any of the first, second, or fourth debater from the opposition side. Now is the twist.
I think the imbalance that's going on here between America and China discursively is that the Chinese seem to be very familiar with the arguments on the U.S. side, but the Americans have no idea what the Chinese are saying. So what does that tell you? I mean, as far as which one is more advanced than the other, it seems like the Chinese point of view is shaped and trialed by already responding to the liberal arguments, whereas the liberals are unexposed and are not robust enough to deal with the Chinese perspective.
Side can interrupt anytime, while the opposition side cannot. For the team asking questions, he or she would have a time limit of 30 seconds to ask a question. Also bear in mind, that needs to be a question, not a statement, not a comment, not a rhetorical question. Now, Enoch from the proposition team, you may proceed.
Thank you. So let me kickstart with a couple of short questions. I have a dream. When was that sentence said by Martin Luther King?
Dude, this suit looks sick as fuck. The blazer, his jacket looks sick as fuck.
Do you mean the year? Or
Yeah. It's okay. Let me remind you, 1963.
Yeah, okay.
I Can't Breathe. 50 years later. So the second speaker mentioned about making progress and development. So my question is, how does U.S. human rights solve problems, as you said, in racial discrimination? How does that mean? What does that mean for that 8 minutes and 40 seconds of George Floyd? What does that mean for Breonna Taylor in solving the systemic racial issue, while 99% of the police is never being charged even once? And anyone?
Okay, I think the first response I'm going to make is that you still see those kind of progress happening. That is the reason why you see Barack Obama come to stage, right? But secondly, I want to talk about, like, in China, it does not mean discrimination does not happen in China. You still have this kind of discrimination against, like, rural people in these kind of areas.
Sure,
right?
great. So it still hasn't solved the problem. That was my point. After 50 years, nothing has been solved. So even with US human rights, nothing has been solved, particularly with racial problem, after 50 years, 5 decades. So you asked me to make comparison. My colleague mentioned about in 2020, China has officially eradicated absolute poverty, lifting 750 million Chinese out of poverty. That's 80% of the world extreme poverty. Comparison. Do you know how many people are under poverty line in the US?
You can just...
Sure, great. So that's 43.5 million Americans living in under poverty. And 1 in 6 Americans go to bed hungry, with lack of access to healthy meals, and visit the food bank every year. So again, that's comparison for you. With hard work, 4 decades, 750 million lifted out of poverty. So I want to ask, from the US perspective, 0 versus 43.5 million. What does that say to human rights?
Can I ask back a question?
You'll have the opportunity next.
Yeah.
So please answer the question.
So firstly, I don't know whether the poverty standard is the same when you actually talk about poverty at US and China, right? But I did feel like that China is oftentimes identified ourselves as a kind of like developing country, which means that we are still underdeveloped.
So are you denying China's achievement in lifting 750 people out of poverty?
No, we are not denying that. But
so please answer the question. How US human rights help to lift the 43.5 million, which is still living under poverty? 1 out of 6, out of 8 of us, 1 of us will be going to bed hungry if we're all Americans. Let me go then to externally, something that has been said and many times as well by my colleagues. In the name of human rights and anti-terrorism efforts, the US have launched war in Afghanistan, Iraq, Syria, etc. Since 9/11, conservative estimate by Brown University in the USA, at least 37 million have fled their home, and more than 800,000 people have died in conflicts with US involvement.
So here's the thing about these statistics that with regard to the death toll, I mean, even if, technically not over 1 million of people, we don't even know how many died in these wars. But even if it's on the lower end of the estimates, the amount of people who've been displaced and had their fucking lives ruined and destroyed, over 37 million, I mean, that is fucking unprecedented, dude. That is incredible. And just because not everyone's dying doesn't mean they're not facing this unprecedented calamity that's hanging over their lives.
War violence. So my question is, who should bear the responsibility for repairing the damage inflicted on those displaced refugees and death? 37 million. That's human. That's from outside our definition.
Yeah,
who should hold that
without
responsibility?
U.S. intervention, those countries still live under dictatorship who have no interest
So
in
it's
protecting
okay
people.
for them to die. It's okay
It's
for
still
them
in
to
a
not
process
hold the 37 million.
of restoring that country and helping them to build up functioning mechanism, functioning institutions.
Sure,
help
so
them
I want to
ensure their life.
understand about the 37 million who don't have home. What does functioning democracy mean for them?
I mean, in warfare, you still have a lot of conflict. It's not just U.S. caused deaths, but also multiple parties.
So from my understanding, just now, where there's 4.3.5 million Americans who go to bed hungry, or 37 million who don't have home, and that's not counted as human. I want to understand, my last question, how does U.S. human rights support these people? Anyone? In this case, I rest my case. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Enoch. Now I would like to invite Ekaterina from the opposition team to start her crossfire.
Thank you. Thank you. That was very active and impressive, very emotional. I'm not that emotional. I'm just trying to deliver some information. So I will ask just a few questions. Maybe they will be rhetorical, so I'm going to break some rules here. I'm sorry. Let's start with the basics. You decided not to define human rights. So my question is, do you think that corruption...
You guys see why we're ML? That was fucking golden, dude. That was golden.
connected to human rights? It's literally yes or no question, kind of.
Freedom from corruption is a basic right that most people deserve.
Beautiful. Do you think that political representation is connected to human rights?
Political representation as such cannot be compared, nor should it be compared in this debate.
Sure. Personally, are you sure that you're aware about all problems happening in China?
I think we're clear about this question as much as you're clear about all the problems that is happening in the United States.
How can you say so? What is your claim?
My claim is that the only reason you ask me this question because you have no answer to this question.
You can have a personal question. I'm asking, do you believe that you're aware about all the problems happening in China?
Yes, I just told you. My understanding of all the problems happening in China is the same amount of your understanding of all the problems happening in the United States.
Yeah, absolutely. So moving further, the question, like the statement about poverty alleviation, I have a very broad question. Do you know how those people live, those who were alleviated from poverty? Do you know how do they live right now? Do you have the statistics how many of them eat before going to bed?
As a matter of fact, I was personally involved in the poverty alleviation part, and actually I covered some of the stories there. And actually I do believe that those people having been lifted poverty are enjoying a better lives here.
Like what? Can you give some examples, please, if it is possible?
Of course, I know this village person who is used to live in a very remote areas. They have to travel for miles after miles to get basic subsistence for food and water. But now they're living in places that are closer to the city center, so that they could easily get the necessities for their livelihood. And I think that is the de facto improvement of their life qualities, and thus protecting their human rights.
So do they still live in rural area, or they moved to the city?
Well, actually, the statistics and the facts are right there up to see. And now they do not live in the city, but they live in the better side of they live in the better neighborhood of the countryside.
So you basically say that the living conditions of the countryside in China are much better than those in the U.S., correct?
I specifically did not say that.
Right.
I'm saying that their living conditions right now is better than where they used to live.
All right. Moving forward to solving problems, do you have any opinions about the improvement of Gaokao?
What improvements are you referring to?
Do you think that Gaokao supports rural area and rural kids and helps them to get into universities?
Are you implying that Gaokao is somehow biased against people who live in rural areas?
Perhaps.
You have to be clear whether you're implying that or not.
I do imply that.
Okay. To the implication that the Gaokao or the national entrance exam is somehow biased against people who live in the rural areas, the first observation we have is how is that relevant? The second observation we have is it is not biased. The third observation we have is even if there are instances of biases, there is no alternative system that can take so many high school graduates and put them through a process which ensures fair and equitable access to a university. So Gaokao is not limited to China. Almost all countries on this side, on this part of the world have national entrance examinations because they deem it to be the most fair. Now, fairness concerns are relative and absolute, and in this case, it is relatively fair even if any other system is proven to be better.
Thank you, Sunny, and thank you, Kate. Time is
right.
up.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. Now, I would like to welcome the third debaters from either side to conclude his or her arguments. Enoch, please.
They picked weak debaters on the pro-Western side. Here's the thing about that. Two things. The first is that I think the strong point for all of the Western side of the debates is just to air all of China's dirty laundry. Tiananmen Square, and then some of the other unconfirmed stuff, the camps, and then human rights, all that kind of stuff. You know, that's coming. But you have to understand that there's an information filter going on. That the information we're receiving about China and America, about China's internal affairs, some of them won't hold up in China, not because the government censors them, but because Chinese people themselves know that they're fucking baseless. And the only people who would ever believe them are naive Americans who don't actually live in China. So this is one reason why the Western side seems so weak. These are people who come from a university based in Beijing, and they're not going to be able to get away with spewing absurd Western lies and slander about China, not because the government is censoring it, but because no one in their right mind within China actually believes in it. The second thing, which is a kind of side observation, is that, to be fair, leftists, or at least not leftists per se, but I guess anti-imperialists, whenever I see them in debates in the West, they always seem to be on the weak side as well. So it's, you know, it seems like there's a similar dynamic going on with regard to that. Have you seen the Chuang article on spirit breaking? Yeah, I haven't. I know about Chuang, though. Can you give me an example about a Western lie about China? The events of Tiananmen Square are not properly or fairly reported in the West. People make it seem like there was just a bunch of peaceful protests and the Chinese government came in and killed a bunch of people. That's not what happened. It was way more complicated. Another lie that's repeated in the West is that in China, all mention of the Tiananmen Square is banned because nobody knows about it. No, everybody knows about Tiananmen Square in China. It's regarded as a very tragic national event that everyone knows about. And the rationale of the government's actions are well known and repeated through the population itself, which is that we can't let our country become like what the Soviet Union became. And people find that argument, to the extent of my awareness, they find it pretty convincing.
If the U.S. saw what U.S. is doing in the U.S. would invade the U.S. to liberate the U.S. from the tyranny of the U.S. This was said by the Lebanese permanent representative to the UN. This sentence exactly highlights the hypocrisy, the double standard that U.S. has, and we do not believe U.S. human rights support human at all. In China, we believe, and we strongly believe, that right to life and right to health is more important than any other rights because dead people can't speak and dead people don't live, and therefore it's very difficult for them to have rights. And it is demonstrated by the year of 2020, with how the US dealt with COVID-19. And if you say otherwise, tell that to that 500,000 people who no longer have any rights because of how US responded. We appreciate accountability.
Materialist versus idealist view on display right here.
From opposition party. We appreciate having to shout and provide alternative facts on media and press. But however,
yeah, I saw the Mehdi Hassan thing. The only reason I don't want to react to it is, one, we're going to probably go on Destiny after this. And two is I already saw it. I already saw the full thing. And I won't be as I myself don't want to watch it again.
From our perspective, we believe having to live is more important than before.
Did he respond? No, but I'm sure if I DM him, he'll be available. What is this? What is this? I got a DM right now from someone named... Hold on, let me read the DM. Some of you may know me as... That's right. Before anything else, I would say I apologize for using anyone's content without... Let me read this without... As someone with... I already showed it anyway, so... Regarding... So... What? Considering these... First thing, I asked for permission... Dude, this is kind of extra. You can use our... Dude, let me tell him. Poor guy. Dude, no... PSA, I guess, since it needs to be said. You can use our content. We don't... I'm not a intellectual property mongerer. You can upload clips. You can do whatever you want, dude. I'm confident that whatever content of us you use, people are going to find the origin, they're going to find the source, and we're going to ultimately benefit. So please, use whatever you want. I have no objection at all.
Important than ever, and having to work together, having different parties that work together on a common goal, that brings progress. And it's clear, whether it's from poverty affiliation, it's clear from the economic growth that China being the only economy that have risen above in COVID-19 because they have gotten under control. I'm going to close by my statement to talk about why this is so important and why this naturally become more important. In 1949, when People's Republic of China was founded in Tiananmen Square, what is written when they raised the first People's Republic of Chinese flag, it said, "Long live the great unity of the world's people. Long live the People's Republic of China." We are in a pursuit of community of shared future for mankind. For us, troops aren't there to create wars and hurt people, displacing 30 million people when they don't have home, and killing 800,000 just since 9/11. For us, since 1947, for more than 40 years, Chinese People's Liberation Army has never fought a war. Instead, the Chinese military troops is deeply rooted in the people, have always been part of the people, work for our interests and maintaining bonds through shared good and bad times. And therefore, that's why we passionately believe and propose the motion that Chinese human rights support human. Thank you.
Thank you. Kate, please, it is your turn.
Well, I definitely had less time, and thanks again, very impressive. I really like your public speaking skills. I'll probably be short. And as supporting my team, I would say that the US is able to self-reflect, admit weaknesses, and improve. While China grows through cheap labor right now, and this cheap labor is based on rural kids that are not affected by fair Gaokao. What is the ratio of middle class in China compared to the US? How labor unions work in China? What is the longevity of maternity leave and how to get it in China? COVID is a moment, and it's a very, very strong argument, but it's a one-time situation. It's an emergency situation, and it shouldn't be considered a norm. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Kate. Thank you, the speakers, the debaters from either side. Now we're entering the free debate session. The free debate begins with the proposition side, and every speaker is allowed to speak. But you should bear in mind that your speech is limited to no more than 60 seconds. There will be 5 minutes in total, allocated to each team. Now, the proposition team, you may start.
I'm going to kickstart with the first question. Thank you for the third speaker to mention that US is able to self-reflect. So my question is about this. Both China and US have faced huge epidemic before. It's nothing new. In China, we faced a huge epidemic in SARS in 2003, where over 300 Chinese have died. In 2009, US have faced a 12,000 American death with swine flu. So I want to ask, how did US, over the decade, have learned and self-improved, and why there's still 500,000 deaths?
Right, but again, you're talking about pandemic and epidemic. Let's look at other illnesses, for example, cancer.
So I want to understand that the 500,000 death life does not matter. It's not part of the human for the US side.
I want to clarify that the US system is not built, is not prepared for this overwhelming pandemic. No country is well prepared for this type of pandemic. Dr. Fauci has a...
Wait, to be fair, China seems like it was pretty well prepared. I mean, from where I'm sitting, it seemed like it was prepared.
already said that the U.S. healthcare system is something overwhelmed. The capacity is overwhelmed by the significance of this pandemic. But during the process, at least now we have vaccinations in a short period of time. At least people are getting vaccinated and people are following those orders and improving those conditions. Yes, it's lucky that China was able to mobilize millions of people to control pandemic in a short period.
Come on, dude. This is not a good argument. It's not luck.
Time, but it is something that Chinese systems are not designed for as well. What are the systematic reform China has did after this pandemic to make sure that in the future, if a bigger pandemic happens on, how China is going to deal with? Still making millions of people being volunteers and not think about anything more advanced and more intelligent?
Great, but my question is about self-reflection. So I want to understand what self-reflection have U.S. done that contribute towards how they deal with COVID-19. That was my question.
U.S. has a lot of medical laboratory who are constantly researching, constantly finding out potential threats right now. Even right now, there are reports coming from U.S. that is alerting everyone that there's a new pandemic maybe going on in the future years. These are the reforms that the U.S. is currently doing to make sure that the pandemic will be dealt with better.
My follow-up question, and that would be my last, is that do you think then, through self-reflection, U.S. actually did better in 2019, 2020, comparing to 2009 with the swine flu?
I think U.S. did bad this time, but compared with other diseases like Ebola and other types of diseases and pandemic, U.S. has clearly done a better job in controlling them.
With Ebola, the U.S. went to West Africa and contained it there. So the U.S. is used to controlling other people outside of its own borders. When it comes to actually mobilizing its own population to follow basic norms, I mean, it's a civilizational problem. Look at what happened in Miami just the other day. It's a civilizational problem. There's no ifs or buts about it. It's not because of Trump, by the way. It's definitely a civilizational issue.
In a very early stage.
So from the first speaker, we just heard that the state cannot decide what kind of human rights are there. And it sounds like that the US is reflecting on it. Maybe it should decide what kind of human rights it should protect, right? Isn't that hypocrisy? Your name is America. And if the state cannot decide what human rights are, then just like, this is what the first speaker just said, then why is the United States intervening in other countries' stuff just because they think that their human rights are not respected? Isn't that confliction?
Okay. You're talking about United States invading other countries, right? But you also see Hong Kong, the situation in Hong Kong with China. It's the same situation.
Okay, guys, I mean, this is a Chinese media, and, they're not censoring the Hong Kong thing, so come on, It doesn't seem like it's 100% staged. I don't know.
How is that the same?
I think it may just be that the West side, they're in the university based in Beijing, so they may not want to go like full Super Saiyan mode. That's my speculation. I doubt it's actually staged, though.
Same.
No, it's kind of the same.
Okay, firstly, it's definitely not the same situation. I'll be very brief here. Number one, you mentioned that how has China learned from 2003? Actually, the reason why China was able to mobilize millions of people at such a short notice was not an accident, was not a coincidence. It was a system that came in place after the experience of SARS, and that system actually did not deliver 100%, which is why the few deaths that did occur also occurred. So this is a fact. Obviously, my only point is that it was not a coincidence. It wasn't an accident. It was a proactive effort by the government.
Notice every time people try to critique China being like imperialistic or whatever, it's always stuff that has to do with China's territorial historical claims surrounding its own border, and which is historical part of the historical China before European colonialism. It's never China having territorial issues with the status of the government in Mozambique or something.
Government. Number two, you also earlier mentioned that the United States is intervening in these countries to save them because these countries are at war. I'm so sorry, but let's ask the people of Afghanistan, Iraq, Syria, even my own country, Pakistan, where 90% of the deaths as a result of drone attacks were civilians, innocent civilians. And this is not Pakistan's number. This is also the CIA's number, mostly children. So this is a big problem. Yes, it is different for the United States to come in countries, and by the way, over 30 countries, since 2001 alone, 369,000 bombs have been detonated. I stated this fact. This is completely different from Hong Kong, number one. Let's understand the ground realities in Hong Kong, but let's also talk about how would the Americans react if another country, like my own country, bombs civilian targets in the United States. That is the comparison. And it's extremely, I also think your side has given very good arguments, but how can you confine the conversation of human rights within the borders of the United States? This is something something that we need to readdress? Thank you.
I would like to have two responses here. The first is regarding to human rights, because they claim that human right is defined by the US, right? But I have already proved to you why this kind of political rights is fundamental to human beings, right? Even if human beings are ultimately going to make bad results, still it's a principal right that they should have, even if they make bad results, right? But secondly, they talk about China has more efficiency in solving all these problems like pandemic, right? The first response is that you should also consider about the cancer rate, right? But second response to that is that to some extent, that is exactly this kind of efficiency is achieved exactly by sacrificing human rights. You don't want people to actually actively make choice what people really want. For instance, some people just want more freedom, and you are denying these kind of choices of coming from the people.
Okay, but we do have to realize that rights comes with responsibilities. No one is born with any rights. Rights have to be earned. Just because you say you're born with rights does not really mean so. You have to earn your rights, all right? And just now you mentioned maybe some people wanted freedom, but I believe the majority of people wanted to live. They want to live first before they could enjoy the freedom. If you do not live, there's no freedom at all. So that is why we would like to sacrifice freedom temporarily to make people safer, and then we could become more freedom.
Yeah, sure. What we miss here is that as if no one dies in China and that China solves all the problems, and right now, because no one dies in China, because environmental pollution doesn't force new diseases to appear in China, if the cancer rates are not one of the highest in the world, we talk as if there are no other problems in China, but China solved an issue, and right now it can tell that they can, be a model to other countries. And I feel like it may be a little bit misleading.
Proposition side, your time is up. Sorry.
Okay.
Only the opposition side can speak now.
Other than that, well, actually, I do agree that I disagree with the US foreign policy. But domestically, China is not doing a great job. And we kind of know what I can talk about here, but I don't want to. And everyone just makes their own decision.
Ooh, okay. This is how I know it's not staged. What did she just say? Damn, wait, hold on.
Well, actually, I do agree that I disagree with the US foreign policy. But domestically, China is not doing a great job. And we kind of know what I can talk about here, but I don't want to.
Dude, okay. No, it's CGTN seems neutral. Okay, I know for a fact this is not staged now. I know for a fact it's not staged. She just took out the Yu-Gi-Oh card and she was like, there's things I want to talk about, but I can't talk about them here. So she's not a shill, She's definitely not a shill. No, they're not rightist. Guys, it's not one or the other. Just because they're not staging it doesn't mean that they're taking the side of the opposition. But it seems to me that the opposition is doing their best. I think she wants to talk about Tiananmen Square, though. Or I think she wants to talk about the situation in Xinjiang. One of those two. I think those are like her cards, She wants to play those two cards. But I think there may be restrictions in place not allowing her to spread inflammatory shit about Xinjiang, separatistic ideas. As for Tiananmen, I'm not 100% sure, but yeah.
And everyone just makes their own decisions, I guess, and conclusions.
Okay, time is up, guys. Thank you. Thank you for this free-ranging discussion and debate. Now we're entering the final part of today's debate, final focus. Let's welcome our fourth debater from each side to deliver their concluding remarks, beginning this time with the opposition team. Please.
Thank you, everyone. Let's discuss two things in this debate. I think this is general.
The fact that she can't talk about kind of is a point for the West. I don't think so. I mean, I think she can't. It's not the reason she can't talk about it isn't because it would be such a devastating argument, but because China probably has laws against spreading separatistic propaganda, and that's generally illegal. In general. I mean, words matter in China. They carry power. I mean, no doubt about it. Words carry power in China. But that also speaks to the level in which people have power. People's words matter. I mean, in America, your words don't really matter.
What we discussed till now. First, about consequence or the outcome that they chanted so much that China has done better. There's three things they discuss. Firstly, is in terms of poverty. But my partner, and especially my teammates, has mentioned to you, poverty alleviation is just a first step. It's something true. It's pretty significant. But if you look at the United States, we have a much bigger and much more viable and vigorous middle class that were able to live an abundant life, that were able to make choices that they want, live a colorful life, and enjoy their life more happily than people who just meet their basic living. This is because U.S. has a free market system that enable anyone who have the capabilities to empower themselves to self-actualize and live a better life when, through the system of free market. Compare with China, a lot of labor forces when China is still doing a lot of manufacturing in the early stage of open up reform in 1978 are being left over. They're unemployed. If you look at Northeast China, those 3 provinces are suffering from structural unemployment, the lack of birth rates, etc., etc. These are the reality that they can't defend, that they can't improve. They have no other choice but to watch them die out or watch them to be worse off. Second thing they mentioned about the pandemic, I already clarified to you. This is something no one ever are prepared for. This is something we all aren't prepared for. Even for China, we still face shortage of resources in the early stage of pandemic. It's lucky that China can mobilize millions of people as volunteers to control this pandemic. But till now, there's still no structural reform, no technological breakthrough that were able to, not letting millions of volunteers go on street on a daily basis, sacrifice their own personal life. But compared with the United States, we were already able to develop.
I think this is a super weak argument. I think that, millions and millions of people being volunteers to combat common problems is the future. I mean, especially with climate change coming around the corner, there's no way around the fact that you're going to need people on the ground dealing with these crises who are volunteers. And
to develop new solutions, to find out new potential threat of virus as such. Third thing argue about intervention, how U.S. intervening into other countries caused huge damage and casualty. Firstly, they totally neglect what I have told you about those countries before U.S. ever touched them. If according to China's logic, we don't intervene them, then people are living under hell under those dictators. People are living under Syrian governments who use chemical weapons upon them. These are the things that they think their inaction is going to lead to. On the United States, even though in the process, in a war, no one can stop casualties. It's something inevitable, but at least in the process, in Afghanistan, we built a ring road that connects 4 major cities, help to rebuild their economy, and help to push out the Taliban out of the territory to a very large extent for history records. We were able to mobilize democratic powers in those Middle East countries who previously live under dictatorship, have no choice. We were able to tell them there are other ways of living, there are other choices they can make, even though they're not finished, even though
Okay, this speaks to something. Has CNN or any other Western media ever platformed pro-China views in the same way Chinese media is right now platforming pro-Western views? I've never seen it.
Democratic system are now fully established in those countries, even though chaos is still over there. But with United States and its allies' help, we were able to make progress and we were able to check the mistakes we're making on the way.
Thank you very much. Now, the proposition team.
So the opposition side had impeccable logic in the sense that they had brought up multiple issues. We are going to summarize our arguments and reject those issues one by one. The first broad issue that they brought up in the entirety of the debate is that human rights are something universal. They existed before we existed, and as such, everybody is supposed to be given the same amount of rights or the same type of rights. We reject the idea of the universality of human rights because the universality of human rights does not come from a higher power, but comes from a particular conception in the United States, in its unique history, that all people are born equal and deserve a certain set of rights. Take, for example, take one particular example to draw a general point. Take freedom of speech. In the United States, freedom of speech is absolute. Freedom of speech is enshrined in the Constitution, and individuals' freedom of speech should not be infringed, even if it affects collective welfare. That is the US approach. Now, when it comes to that, it's not the freedom of speech that is being protected, it is the freedom of hate speech which is being protected. Now, take other countries, for example. Take China, for example. Freedom of speech is enshrined in the Chinese Constitution as well. They say we give people the freedom of speech, but their right to freedom of speech ends when their freedom of speech has broader real-world consequences. Broader consequences that affect people way beyond their, the actions that they're doing. Next, we move on to interventionism and...
I think that's a powerful point, isn't it? You have free speech, but only where that speech has real-world consequences that are illegal, that's where they draw the line. I mean, that seems pretty persuasive to me.
Outcomes of those interventionism. Our side has said that a country's conviction towards human rights does not stop at their border. A country's conviction, their dedication towards human rights, spreads on the basis of how they treat everyone. So the opposition said that, well, if you imagine the counterfactual, you remember the counterfactual, if the United States had not intervened, these countries would have been living in objectively worse times. Let's assume that to be true for a second. You were living under a dictatorship in Libya. You were living under a dictatorship in Syria. You were living under a dictatorship in Yemen, in a well-built house, and you had basic resources to support yourself. Now you are living not in a dictatorship, but in a country which is at perpetual war with itself. So you are still living in objectively worse living conditions in a country which is at a perpetual war with itself, and at the same time, you are living with much worse resources than you had before. So to summarize the opposition's points, which are very similar to say, principles of colonialism, it is fine for us to intervene. It is fine for you to live objectively worse life. It is fine for you to live in hunger. It is fine for you to live in the midst of destruction, as long as we leave you a democracy at the end. Because that clearly seems to be the implication. Now, I would like to reiterate a very important point from our side is that economic development, which came up multiple times, is a process. The United States objectively is at a much higher pedestal of economic development than we are. We are not talking about absolutes of economic development, but we are talking about trajectory. How human rights trends in both the countries are going. And if we are looking at trajectory and trends, we certainly believe that China's version of human rights is more broadly in the interest of the people than the American version of human rights is.
All right, thank you very much. I want to thank all of our debaters today. Excellent statements, speeches.
That was really cool. Wait, is it done? No, it's 10 more minutes.
As a chairperson, I'm not inclined to intervene, but I just want to throw out some questions out there to kind of get the ball rolling on some of the questions that have not been quite touched here. Question number one, I want to ask either side and to get your comment, your thoughts on the situation in Xinjiang. Do you think the treatment of Uyghurs are a violation?
That's what she was talking about. Wow. Okay, I don't, you guys, I'm just making assumptions. I don't even know that China's restricting talking about it based on anti-separatists. I don't even know what their policies are. I'm stupid, dude. I don't even know what is and isn't allowed in China. I mean, I was just assuming they're censoring it. It doesn't look like they are.
Of human rights. Let's start with the proposition side.
I think I'll try to respond to that. So first of all, when we look at the purpose behind what's happening in Xinjiang, it is essentially to curtail the possible radicalization of people. And radicalization of people in the region is something that countries bordering China have experienced, including my own country, Pakistan. So although I think that a policy that is trying to re-educate people, maybe sometimes against their will, can seem as if it's limiting their freedom to pursue their own interests. But at the same time, when you look at countries like my own, like Afghanistan, like some Central Asian countries, when they were exposed to these mindsets, they also let them fester, unfortunately, to some extent. And as a result, more people have suffered because of that. I know that in Pakistan, the peak of security issues was in 2008. And had we, say, back in 2003, back in 2002, when we knew that certain segments of the society are vulnerable, are susceptible, if we had addressed them at that time, if we had some proactive efforts to reach out to them and make sure that they don't feel alienated, instead they are being invited to learn new skills and to be able to incorporate in the broader economic system at large, I think the consequences could have been far better. So there are no perfect solutions in any part of the world, but if we look at countries that have suffered the consequences, perhaps they also appreciate that maybe they need some similar initiatives to make sure things don't worsen.
To a certain extent, it's a violation of freedom of choice, because whether or not those people truly identify themselves with the so-called radical ideas is still unclear. I'm saying that it's not okay for the Chinese government to dictate, to say that, okay, this is the life you are going to live in. That is radicalization, and there's no consideration of their thoughts, of their experience whatsoever. I'm saying that the process of de-radicalizing Xinjiang is a process of depriving them of the choices which could have been deliberated better, which could have been discussed better, if we include those people and share their voice and their thoughts to a broader sense and discuss with the rest of people in Chinese society.
So a couple of points. First of all, the Vocational Education and Training Center established in accordance with the law in Xinjiang is no.
All right, guys, this was not a stage debate. They came prepared to address everything. Okay, so yeah.
Different from community correction in the US, in the DDP program in the UK, the distance and disengaging program in the UK, or the de-radicalization center in France. They're all of them are useful measure in all the countries that I mentioned before, and positive exploration of how they prevent counter-terrorism. And they're all in line of the UN counter-terrorism strategy. And one more thing I just want to add is that through the law-based counter-terrorism,
you know, keeping that in mind, the whole focus on Xinjiang, which is such a strategically vital part of the world. Remember what Zabernau Dzerzhinsky, I don't know how to say his name. Remember what he said about Central Asia. It's the global chessboard. It's the chessboard of the world. This focus, hyper focus on Xinjiang, by the West, by America specifically, super sus. I mean, super sus.
De-radicalization and vocational training center.
How did I pronounce it? Zabernau Brzezinski. It's Zbigniew. Why did I say Zabernau? I'm such a fucking idiot.
That is in Xinjiang region. We have not seen a single violent terrorist case in the past 3 years. So
is it Zebnau? Zbig. It's Zbig? Zbigniew. Zbigniew? Oh, it's Zbigniew. Zbigniew Brzezinski. Zbigniew. I'm such okay. Zbigniew Brzezinski.
So what I'm trying to say is that with the mean and the end, they're both justified. They're both legal and aligned with the UN and the UK, France, etc. And it also have an impact and effect.
Zbigniew. Zbigniew. Zbigniew Brzezinski. Zbigniew. What a weird, such a tough name to pronounce. Wow.
Of not having any other strikes.
But just a very short question. Why did terroristic attacks happened before in Xinjiang?
It's the same reason of why US view is justified to bomb Iraq and Afghanistan and Syria, etc.
Yeah, but again,
they're all terrorist attacks in their own right that is against the values and violate human rights. And in our side, we want to protect our own citizens. And this, we believe, better support
it
humans.
was the response of Xinjiang to the governance, like the Beijing governance, basically, right?
Of course, because people are dying. And we want to protect our own citizens. And this is one of them. And on the side effect, by the way, this also brings up the economy of the Xinjiang and allowing them liberty and allowing them to get work, whether it's educating with the common language of China Mandarin or giving them skills so they have more things to do other than following.
Okay, guys, if I'm a U.S. State Department, deep state type of guy, CIA, and I'm thinking, how do we break China, just like the Soviet Union? Remember that the first thing they're going to be focusing on, before they even focus on student liberal protests, they're going to be focusing on national antagonisms, because China has, 44, 55, something, dozens and dozens of ethnic minorities within China. That's what the U.S. is going to go for, okay? It's common sense.
The ill-minded and become terrorists.
So do you believe that the area with already established language needed to learn a new language to improve their economic situation, considering that they have the largest oil reserves in the whole country?
Of course not, but we're giving them options.
Of course, yeah.
Okay, guys, let's move on to our last and final topic, Hong Kong. Do you think what's happening in Hong Kong, especially the latest patriotism requirements, the national security legislation, are a violation of human rights on the ground in Hong Kong?
So, again, at Zone here, we go through very similar philosophical foundations in some areas. I'm from India. We have our own share of separatist movements. Now, again, sometimes we are of the opinion that there are many things that countries tolerate. There are many things that countries should not tolerate. One of them is separatism. So if I take, you deal with separatism in using methods which are applicable to those particular places. So if you ask me what is happening in Hong Kong and whether we are supportive of it or not, we are supportive of not supporting separatism, no matter what it takes to control it. If a particular region's political system sort of allows for it to promote separatism, then the natural response of the government is to amend that political system in a way that it does not curtail their civil liberties to a very large extent, but at the same time solves the underlying problem of separatism.
Anyone wants to say anything here?
Yes. I think it's not okay to call it separatism. For people living in a certain country, they might want to identify themselves with another country, with another lifestyle, another version of life that exists somewhere else in the world. They should be granted freedom to express their thoughts. They should be granted the right to deliberate those interests through the political system. So that's why this is what Hong Kongers initially was asking.
What about the war of northern aggression, huh? Come on, guys, wait. The U.S. had a war of separatism. The South wanted to secede. They decided we want to secede. There was a war of northern aggression. Now, if you tell me, well, it was about slavery, it's besides the point. It's about sovereignty of a people who want to be separate from the North. Nobody wants to bring that up.
For the universal suffrage to decide on how Hong Kongers should rule themselves. So this is where I think is a clear violation of people's right to assemble, and as well as the right to identity. And second, I think even in a process where it is true that a lot of Hong Kongers and protesters end up having really radical and violent masses of protesting. But a lot of times, it's also not okay for the police to use much better gear and equipment to suppress people who oftentimes do not have such strong power to fight against a very powerful country and very powerful government machine. So this is where I think in two regards, there's a certain proportion, a certain extent of violation of human rights.
So a quick rebuttal, particularly to your point of police brutality. Tell that to that 1,100 citizens who get killed by police in the US. So, and throughout the whole entire time for over a year, no one were killed by the police. But yet, in Washington, when it happened in the Capitol, 6 persons died just within a span of just 1 week. And my response is that 3.1 is that a resounding no. It is not a violation of human rights, and if that's the case, then US also violate human rights, since US also have national security law. So having national security law alone doesn't. Second is that whether we believe in rule of law or not. And US have continuously recognized Hong Kong as a special administrative region of China that has rule of law. In the basic law, the freedom and the rights are protected. Freedom of speech, freedom of publication, association, assembly, possession of demonstration. They're all being protected by the rule of law in Hong Kong basic law. And last but not least, the national security law only addresses 4 different areas. That includes terrorism activity, that includes subversion, succession, and collusion with foreign countries. Particularly the last one. I would hope US would also agree this need to be protected from foreign powers.
Do you know any separatist movement happening in the US?
For almost any question you have about the US, the answer is always Texas.
So my answer would be not that we know of, because there's national security law in the US. So therefore, that is why we
wow.
propose the national security law in Hong Kong as a part of China as well.
In any case, the answer is always Texas.
Yeah, I want to have a very big response on police brutality, right? I think it probably depends on different contexts, because in US people just have guns, right? So that is probably that police will see those as there's the potential to kill them. That is why a lot of police brutality happens, right?
All right, thank you so much. We'll have to leave it there. Thank you all so very much for our proposition team as well as the opposition team. It's a fantastic debate. I don't know who the winner is. I want to ask our viewers, who do you think has been the winner of today's debate, China or the US? Which country supports human rights record more? Also leave us your comments, thoughts, questions about this debate.
All right, let's check out what Destiny's doing. I got to stretch a little bit. Ooh. All right, guys, let's do this. Do it for the channel. Let's check out what he's doing.
Recognized you. We may keep to ourselves, but I know everyone here. I would never forget your mug. The younger child pierces me with its eyes. The steamed visor of his gas mask betrays his rapid breath. Your gob looks like that because...
What are we going to talk to Destiny about? I'm trying to think. What will we talk to him about? Alright, I'm gonna DM him right now. Where is he? Destiny? Right here. Alright, I just DM'd him. I'm gonna go piss and I'll be right back. But I just DM'd him right now.
Woman stares at the floor. Her greasy black hair drops down on her mask.
If he responds,
It's impossible.
if he responds, you'll hear it on stream. I'm gonna pee really quick.
About how his granny will take him mushrooming. I have no idea where he... I told him he cannot go outside. I told him the devil will find him, take off his mask, and take him away. I would look for him, but she lowers her head even more as if observing the dead fly stuck to her coat. You want my trust? Bring my Marcinic back. My stupid Marcinic. Find him and bring him home. Here's the key to his room. He was spending a lot of time there recently. Maybe you'll be able to find something there that will lead you to him. Something exploded in the western part of the swamp, made the ground tremble. Devil knows what it was. I see you're curious. Investigate it if you have a death wish. I think it happened in the junkyard. Apart from these two here in Marcinek, there's one more boy of mine, my precious darling and blessed child. The one rests her hand on the ox. Oh, wait, is this the mother of the 7 boys? This love fills her tanks with clean air. For this, we are forever grateful to him. For the clean air, for the oxygen tanks, for these beautiful masks, and the book. Trees with his own hands brought it here to us.
Scott Bradley, $9.99. Did you know that impulse on a golf ball create a turbulent flow of air around the ball as it travels? This turbulent flow creates a cushion, reducing drag and allowing the ball to stay aloft longer.
Nice.
You say anything?
I think someone uses it as
Let me check.
Simple map scribbled on a piece of crumpled paper.
Okay, I DM'd him. He didn't respond.
It's very inaccurate. I will only be able to find the right position of the spot and count this map.
He didn't respond. That's okay. Oh, he might go on train wrecks? Alright, let's take some, I don't think we're gonna have any callers. Everybody who watches us is in our community, I think. I do have some more content. One, 2, 7, 3. Na 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 na. I need to get that song out of my head. Honest to God. I'm not prank calling nobody. Go on train wrecks. Maybe Destiny will get us on train wrecks. Should a gorilla call in? Nah, it's okay. It was always better when we got like random haters and shit. When we got like random people. But nobody has balls to do that anymore. I don't think we have any hate watchers anymore, you know? I don't think we have any hate watchers. Damn. None. All of us are gorillas here. Have we purged all the haters? No. Actually, maybe we did. Let me look at the ban appeals. Maybe we can review ban appeals on stream. Nope, there's no unban requests. There's no unban requests. Yeah, we'll get hate watchers by going on streams. Yeah, it might be the YouTube people were more hate watchers, definitely. Definitely. Let's just look at the content we have lined up now, because I want to check this out. Wait, this is more CGTN stuff. Let me see this.
Poverty, alcoholism, high suicide rate. Imagine these words being associated with the United States, one of the world's most prosperous countries. This is what many Native Americans are struggling with daily. What got these original masters of the land into such plight? And who should be responsible for it? In 1830, the Indian Removal Act was signed into law by U.S. President Andrew Jackson. It authorized the U.S. President to grant lands west of the river Mississippi in exchange for Indians' ancestral lands. It sounded like a negotiation, but it was not.
Now, you can have
Dude, the Chinese government's going hard talking about this shit now. Like, you want to air our dirty laundry? We'll go hard too.
Things.
They're definitely,
You can keep your sovereignty, but you can't keep your land. But if you keep your land, then you have
bring on eugenics, kun. If he wants, I'll bring him on right now if he wants.
To assimilate and no longer be Indian. You will have sovereignty or you have your land. You can't have both.
After feudal struggles, Native Americans were forced to embark on a journey of no return for the survival of their tribes. Countless people starved to death, became ill, and were killed along the way.
That really was a road of death. People were falling on the side of the road or being shot or being murdered on the road and being left there. The removal process was done in a way that was not efficient in making people survive.
The journey of some tribes was so tragic that today the bloody march is known as Trail of Tears. Although Indian tribes were not physically wiped out, culturally, the American government decided to implement assimilation programs for Native Americans by establishing the Indian boarding schools. Native Americans' kids were taken to these schools by the U.S. government's Bureau of Indian Affairs, away from the reservation and away from their families for years. They were forcibly stripped of their Indian identity and culture. Their indigenous languages were forbidden, and their names were replaced by European names. All ways of life were compelled to be in line with mainstream American culture.
Yuta, I know who Yuta is, but the community doesn't want them. The community said they don't want them. I'm looking at the come on show request right now. What? Based on the discussion we had in VC, you're not worthy of going on the show. But that's our mod, to be fair. That was our mod. They are cringe, dude. They're also, you know, they're not like a... They're old news, you know?
A famous quote from an American general who developed the first off-reservation Indian boarding school revealed the essential purpose of the U.S. government to do so. Kill the
Yeah,
Indian
Yuta's been on so many times, probably more than anyone.
in him and save the man. There were reports that students in the boarding schools were beaten and forced to do heavy labor. One Native American revealed that the boarding schools she attended wasn't really about education. They did not learn basic mathematical concepts or even English grammar. Another recalled the brutal beating of a student by an advisor. He still has nightmares about the severe punishment and discipline there. Native Americans have been left behind in terms of living standards compared to other U.S. races. In 2017, the percentage of Native Americans living in poverty was estimated at 26.20%.
You want to know why I think people are too scared to come on now? Because of our Neo-Cuck video. They caught me at such a bad mood, and it scared the shit out of all of our haters. They were like, I think that's what scared them all off. They're like, holy shit.
28%.
I will never be yelled at like that. I'll cry.
Compared with 14.6% for the United States as a whole. Native Americans have a life expectancy of 5.
Because before that video, people would talk shit and be like, I'll come on all the time. But after, none of our hate watchers ever have the balls to come on anymore after that.
5 years lower than all other US races, and a higher mortality rate due to chronic diseases, including diabetes, chronic liver diseases, and cirrhosis. The youth suicide rate for Native Americans is the highest across all ethnic and racial groups in the United States. 17% of Native Americans attended post-secondary education, compared to 60% among the total US population. Modern history has deprived them of their peaceful life and brought them great trauma. To cure, the collapse of trust in government might be the first thorny problem to tackle. But when will their voices be heard?
Damn. Oh shit. Yeah, guys, 2 can play at these games, you know. That's what's going on.
4.
He still hasn't responded. 2 can play at these games, you know. 2 can play at them, definitely. Let's look at our links. Hold on. I wanted to watch this video. Who's that guy, Upotnik?
This episode was made in collaboration with Ugopnik.
I wanted to check this out.
Sure to check out.
We'll double speed it. It might be shit, might be good. We'll see.
Video after this. If you were born at any point after the 80s, odds are the entirety of your lived experience has been one of crisis. For people my age, our formative years were filled with the consequences of U.S. activity. Our earliest memories include 9/11 and the invasion of Iraq under false pretenses. Then we had the 2008 housing crash, the realization that climate change was nearing a point of no return, the acceleration of suicidal deregulation and privatization, which has left our infrastructure weak and fragile, the skyrocketing cost of tuition, saddling young people who were told college was the only way to succeed with insurmountable debt and increasingly worthless degrees. We've seen the birth and rapid rise of the gig economy, relegating huge portions of the population to precarity and poverty. And of course, we've watched our COVID response become the worst in the world, despite having advanced knowledge of the danger and plenty of resources to handle the situation appropriately. For millennials and younger generations, there's no such thing as the good old days. We never experienced them. We'll cover that topic more thoroughly in a future video, but in this week's episode, we're going to examine why the US seems to be completely incapable of handling crises. Now, this video could easily be over an hour long. The past few decades have seen an alarming acceleration in crisis mismanagement, and it would take way too long to cover them all. We're just going to focus on a handful of them. Before we get to the big ones, let's start with a very American problem: obesity. At first glance, you wouldn't necessarily think to call obesity a crisis, but when you look at
the first thing he talks about when he's talking about the crisis in America is obesity. Like, why America can't handle a crisis? What are Americans known for? It's the first, right off the bat, it's the first thing.
Numbers in the US, things become a bit more grim. As of 2018, 42.4% of all American adults were obese. That number increased drastically between 2000 and 2018, shooting up by nearly 12%, while severe obesity nearly doubled from 4.7% to 9.6%. Obesity among children is also a big problem. Of children,
I really want to see CGTN start covering this and be like, slowly sneak diss America. Be like, yeah, the American obesity problem is huge.
Between the ages of 2 and 19, nearly 1 in 5 are obese. Now, obesity doesn't just mean you're a bit overweight. It's a serious health condition and it comes with a whole slew of problems: heart disease, stroke, type 2 diabetes, and increased susceptibility to certain types of cancer, not to mention a lower quality of life and shorter average lifespan. The fact that nearly half of American adults are obese should be a huge red flag. According to one study conducted in 2008, the estimated annual medical cost of obesity in the US was a staggering $147 billion. And judging by the increased prevalence of obesity in the years since, we can only assume that cost has risen dramatically. Obesity causes nearly 1 in 5 deaths in the US. That's a crisis, and it's not talked about nearly enough. Now, some people will simply tell those suffering from obesity to eat better, and that's not unreasonable. But the roots of the crisis go far beyond individual responsibility. Back in the 50s, President Eisenhower had a heart attack, which sparked a scientific debate over the causes of obesity, which was known to cause heart disease. There were 2 main schools of thought, one led by British physiologist and nutritionist John Yudkin, and the other by Ansel Keys, an American physiologist.
China also has this problem, to be fair. Does it?
Yudkin believed that obesity was mainly caused by sugar, and Keys thought...
He said he'll talk to me tomorrow? Damn. When did he say that? What the fuck? Hold on. Let me pull it up. He'll talk to me tomorrow? Clip? He didn't DM me.
It's probably my last night here, and then I'll go to sleep. I'll get a lot on the docket for tomorrow.
He got it right here.
Infrared wants to talk to you. Fuck. Tell him I speak to you tomorrow. Tell him to message me tomorrow and I can do it. Most likely I can do it tomorrow. Not tonight. I'm so tired tonight. Emperor wants to talk to you? Fuck. Tell him I want to meet you tomorrow.
Dude, he acts like I'm this huge streamer. Like, and he has to talk to me. I'm literally a nobody on Twitch. I'm flattered. Dude, tomorrow's gonna be sick. Yeah, tomorrow. Tomorrow. Gotta get the eye on the prize. He thinks you want to debate him? What I need is I need a army of fact checkers and fact givers. Because when he like says like, what are you talking about? Give me like an article or something. Because you know, it's all too up the top of my head. Prepare. Yeah, I'll prepare a little bit. And tomorrow's perfect. Honestly, it's perfect. Tomorrow works really well for me too. But that's sick.
Thought it was caused by fat. Eventually, it became apparent that Yudkin was correct. Sugar was the culprit behind the condition. But wait, if we identified the cause all the way back in the 50s, why is the problem so much worse today? Well, the sugar industry didn't take kindly to the scientific findings. They funded disinformation campaigns and lobbied the government to support...
Watch the Paul Morin video on China. I don't really want to. I don't really find Paul Morin... No beef. Just me personally. I don't really find him content. I just don't find him that interesting. You know? It's just me. But he's doing successful. He's pretty successful. He's more successful than us, I think, still right now. So, you know, I'm not one to judge. I'm just saying me personally. I don't really find him that interesting.
Fat Diet Initiative in an attempt to maintain their profits. This not only helped them keep their current profits, it also...
Yeah, I'll stream 720p tomorrow. 100%, I'll stream 720p. Yeah, YouTube... When we stream with YouTube, we get like an extra 100 views than we have now, you know? It's not going to be easy building up the Twitch community, but let's test it. Let's see if we can. And if we can, then we'll know it's a good decision. If we can't, we might have to stay with restreaming. If we can't grow on, let's say like a few weeks. Let's give it a few weeks, you know?
Also drastically increased them because in order to make low-fat foods appealing to an American palate, manufacturers had to add more sugar. So, the result of a scientific study clearly linking sugar to obesity was not the reduction of sugar in...
He uses Rawls to frame some of his arguments. He's a physicalist, and he's an egoist. Why does he call himself a Marxist-Leninist then?
Our diets, but a massive...
He's pro-markets and capitalism. Then what's his problem with China? Oh, you're talking about Destiny. Oh, I know about Destiny. I know about Destiny's whole, like, consequentialism or whatever. Yeah, I know a little bit about Destiny. I thought you were talking about Paul Morin. I was like, what?
Disinformation campaign that ended up increasing the amount of sugar in our foods, thereby worsening the very problem we wanted to solve. Keep this result in mind, because you'll begin to notice a pattern. So, what have we done to combat obesity in the decades since the initial studies? Well, not much. Some states have tried to implement sugar taxes, but on the whole, we haven't even made a dent in the crisis. It's only getting worse. In the case of obesity, not only have we failed to handle it, our capitalist system caused it. A giant industry wanted to keep making money, so they threw the American people under the bus.
But I honestly had some junk food today, some Chick-fil-A, some fried chicken, and some fries, and damn, dude, that was good as fuck.
And we've been dealing with
it was the highlight of my day.
Problem for well over half a century now. Let's move on to one of the big crises, one that affects not only the US, but the entire world, climate change. Whether you think humans are influencing the climate change or not, the data is clear. Our climate is changing dramatically and rapidly. Sea ice is melting at unprecedented rates, causing a rise in sea level.
What is that? All right, I don't want to talk about China tomorrow. I don't want to talk about China with Destiny. I want to talk about something else besides China. We're not like weeaboos, but the Chinese version, okay? We respect and admire China, and we want to learn from China. But China have their own business, and they have their own problems, and we don't want to be like, you know, all up in their business is the point. The whole point is that we can't be up all in their business. We want to get people to stop being up all in their business, you know? Do you want to take call-ins? If people want to come on, go in the show queue and I'll see. But it's better if we have random people, preferably haters.
Level. The oceans are becoming more acidic, leading to the annihilation of coral reefs. Violent weather events have become far more common, and we're beginning to see thousand-year storms, droughts, and floods every few years. Thousands of species are at risk of extinction. Disease.
Okay, let me update the title, actually. Taking random call-ins. Okay, taking random call-ins. I'm updating the title. See, updated it.
Is able to spread farther and faster thanks to longer warm seasons, and entire regions are becoming unlivable. In early 2020, I helped shoot a documentary called The Final Years of Madro, which documented the effects of sea level rise in the Marshall Islands. I saw firsthand what will happen to the world's coastal regions and islands. They're going underwater. Their populations will have to evacuate or be destroyed. Since the US likes to think of itself as the leader of the world, surely we're at the forefront of climate change mitigation, right? Well, no. In fact, we're not even close. The United States is one of the few places on Earth where elected officials openly deny the existence of climate change. The climate doesn't care whether you're a Democrat or a Republican. Or, to quote a certain internet person, facts don't care about your feelings. We have the facts. Climate change is happening. So why do our politicians, even the ones who acknowledge the crisis, refuse to address the problem? You won't be surprised to learn that once again, corporate interests stand in the way. In order to understand the present situation, let's take a trip back to the late 70s. Towards the end of the decade and into the 80s, Exxon was at the forefront of climate research, not because they particularly cared about the planet, but because they wanted to understand the effects of the changing climate to better position themselves against the competition in the future. For example, when they began drilling in the Beaufort Sea in the Canadian Arctic, Exxon scientists wondered whether the increased CO2 emissions would warm the region enough to make the voyage and extraction less treacherous, and therefore more profitable. With goals like these in mind, Exxon began conducting some of the most thorough climate change studies to date. Between 1986 and 1992, the company used and developed cutting-edge models to understand the effects of CO2 and other greenhouse gases on the climate, accumulating incredibly valuable data. To use the Beaufort Sea example again, Exxon scientists determined that should atmospheric CO2 concentration double, and they predicted it would by 2050, the region's open water season would lengthen from 2 months to 3, possibly even 5. They underestimated how quickly atmospheric CO2 would accumulate, but they were exactly correct about the lengthening of the Beaufort open water season. And this is just one example. Their models also accurately predicted rising temperatures, dramatic weather, severe ice loss, droughts, floods, and all manner of other
Jennifer, stop. It's not true. You're very wrong. I didn't turn in that paper. It's due 2 weeks from now. And yeah, I haven't even gotten into the worst part yet of law school. I'm still in the thick of it.
Consequences to their actions. And all of this was collected not with the intention of curbing the fallout, but of understanding how they could best position themselves to take advantage of the changing climate. As discourse around climate change heated up, so to speak, Exxon was in a position to do some real good. They had some of the best data available, and it would have made a huge difference in understanding how best to mitigate the consequences of climate fallout. Instead, they chose to do the same thing the sugar industry did. They funded opposition groups, launched disinformation campaigns, and buried their own internal studies so that the public would never learn what they had discovered. For decades, Exxon and other oil and gas giants paid huge sums of money to suppress the facts and lobby politicians to sow confusion and distrust of established science. It wasn't until the mid-2000s that Exxon finally distanced themselves from some of the more outspoken climate denial groups, like the Competitive Enterprise Institute.
Can I tanker pill you guys? No, I can't. I honestly don't have the information organized or prepared. But I really, really want Kantbot and Ed Bergon to tanker pill you guys. But they are, I consider them higher value guests than fucking PewDiePie. Like, they're not, they're not just anyone, yeah. They're not just gonna come on, willy-nilly.
But to this day, they play a major role in subverting the effort to do anything at all about climate change, and they continue to fund climate-denying politicians who help secure oil and gas profits, to the detriment of the entire human race. Exxon denies this, of course, but if you'd like to see the evidence for yourself, I've left links to their internal documents and to an investigative study on the matter in the description. Today, thanks in no small part to the greed of fossil fuel companies, we are years behind where we should be when it comes to mitigating climate fallout. Heck, in the US, we can't even agree it's happening at all. So again, just like with the obesity crisis, we're not only incapable of solving the problem, our capitalist system created the problem. Let's move on to our final big crisis, coronavirus. We're now right around the 1-year mark for when Americans really began to realize just how serious the problem was. In the past year, over 500,000 Americans have died of COVID. We've had more cases and more deaths than anywhere else on Earth. This is despite the fact that we have almost limitless resources to spend on overcoming crises like this one. If we're really the greatest country on Earth, why has our coronavirus response been one of, if not the worst in the world?
Oh, you know why we don't have a lot of hate watchers right now? It's because I disabled the chat for non-followers. So if you want to chat at all, you have to follow us. If you want to chat whatsoever, you have to follow us. Should I disable that? Because I can disable that right now. I just wanted to increase our followers. Disable it? Yeah, I'll disable it right now. Followers only chat. Off. I'm disabling it. Okay, now the haters can come.
As always, to better understand the situation, we need to rewind a bit. When COVID first came to the States, the official response, as with climate change, was denial. It immediately became a political issue. If Trump were to take the necessary measures to ensure the public's safety, he believed he would have tanked his approval rating and his economic numbers. Unsurprisingly, both tanked
Any progress on having Ed Berger? No progress, dude. We're still going to talk to Urban Maoism. We're going to have like a whole separate episode just talking to him. But, I talked to him before, but, he's a really busy guy,
Anyway, after Americans started dropping like flies. But the story of our COVID response is not just about politics. A disease outbreak is perhaps the only thing able to reveal all the little cracks in the country's armor at the same time. Conservatives declared we didn't want to go into lockdown because that was government overreach, a rallying cry taken up by conservative voters. Of course, the politicians and wealthy business moguls didn't really care about government overreach. They just wanted to make sure American workers kept working so the executives could maintain their profits. Once it became apparent that we would have to enforce some kind of lockdown, things started to snowball. Many American businesses operate on razor-thin margins to reduce costs and maximize profits. So when they lost business, they immediately had to lay off their workers in order to weather the storm. Since American healthcare is tied to employment, those millions of workers suddenly found themselves without a paycheck or access to medical care if they became sick. Something that happens quite often in a pandemic. Since our country lacks even the barest provisions for the unemployed, millions of households soon ran out of money. They couldn't pay rent. Landlords are some of those people who run dangerous living operations, relying on their tenants' rent checks to pay off their properties. They begin to evict their tenants. Over the next few months, millions of Americans contract COVID, and our bizarre obsession with freedom led many to refuse to wear a mask. A tiny, simple piece of cloth that's proven to be effective in helping prevent the spread of disease. Our case numbers exploded, becoming the worst in the world. Hospitals were overrun. We had to start digging mass graves. The people who could get a hospital bed could no longer afford the medical bills because they didn't have insurance. Hundreds of thousands of people went into tremendous debt because the US is the only developed country not to have some form of universal healthcare. While the country was falling apart, Democrats and Republicans alike continued to make the situation worse. Republicans railed against mask mandates and asserted that the disease was no worse than the flu, or that it was a Chinese hoax. And the Democrats paid lip service to the science but lied about how well they were handling their city's outbreaks. But the politicians are not the only ones to blame. The general public must bear some of the shame as well, despite mountains of data on both how dangerous the disease is and how other countries have been.
All right, before we have haters, there's someone from Australia who wants to talk about the situation. All right, let me just say this is going to be 5 to 10 minutes. So, this is going to be our first call-in. Someone from Australia. What's up? Hello?
Hey, can you hear me?
Yeah, I could hear you.
Sweet. Hi. Have me on.
What's up?
Not much. Just wanted to. I mentioned it in the chat, but I wanted to talk about, I guess Australia a bit. Both it's sort of like relating to the synthetic left question and the sort of civilizational question. Because it seems that a lot of the left here is really bad at this, and you had a lot of good takes on.
Sure.
Yeah.
Okay. Sure, for sure.
Yeah, but like, so the thing that I wanted to discuss was just because I think there are a lot of similarities between Australia and the US, particularly relating to like, well, both like a settler country, so we kind of have a kind of, like kind of not a real kind of civilization aspect to it. I think you put it better, but there's a sort of a real tendency to sort of like on the left here to just have a very an anti-Australia kind of as a the default, as opposed to kind of constructing a new kind of vision. And I suppose I wanted to get your takes onto like, I guess how you move forward with that, particularly because the biggest issue people want to talk about is like chauvinism, basically. And yeah.
In order to know about Australia, I would have to know I don't know anything about Australia, honestly. I would have to know about who are the Australian people. What do they do for a living? Like, what is the mainstay of the... I know they do extracting minerals for the economy, but like, what is the Australian peasantry? What do they do for a living? You know,
Well, the poorest areas in the is the, which is very similar in a lot of ways. We started as like an agricultural society.
You're cutting out a little bit.
Oh, I am? Hold
Yeah.
on. Is this better?
Yeah, it's
Okay.
better.
Because we started as an agricultural economy, particularly exporting sheep, with wool, sorry, I should say, to England. That aspect has sort of remained, and so the biggest contradiction it seems to be is this sort of the land question, really, at the end of the day. And this was the basis of the founding of the country. And it is still a huge part of the economy. And I think in the country is sort of where you see a lot of really interesting political expressions. The example I like to give, because it's a contemporary one that a lot of Australians are aware of, is this party that's called the Katters Australia Party. And they hold, I guess you could call them economic nationalists and social conservatives. They support nationalising the big Coles and Woolworths, which are just the big supermarket chains, which is a very progressive policy, economically speaking, and quite a few other. They're generally referred to as like protectionist in that sense, and they're based in Queensland. And Queensland as a state is generally derided in the cities, like in Melbourne and Sydney. I live in Melbourne, as being very backwards. Very, very right-wing. But historically, that wasn't the case. Historically, the only communist to ever be to Parliament was in Queensland. not in the city either. And it's just a fun fact, really. But yeah, there seems to be a general disconnect between the attitudes of people in the metropoles and the country, which is a very, very common theme, I think, especially in these settler countries.
So you mentioned, so sorry, I must have missed. So Queensland is agriculture?
Well, technically all the states have agricultural bases, really. So my state's Victoria.
So even still,
our-
it's based in agriculture?
Yeah, there's still a huge, because like a big export is agriculture. We still have protectionist policies around our banana industry, for instance. So there's like tariffs and shit. So we don't take cheap bananas from like the Philippines. We have our own basis there. Like I said, like a huge part of the economy is still it's like agricultural, mining, and like service is like kind of the biggest kind of three, I would say.
In Queensland, just as a broad brush, kind of broad picture, what is the average Joe? What do they do for a living? What's their profession?
It really depends. So in the country, you have a lot of people who are, I guess, small farmers. And you have people who are, but you have a lot of people who are working farms that are effectively owned by bigger landowners. The majority of the land is owned by a small number of big agribusinesses. But I don't know if that constitutes the majority, because Australia has a lot of concentration in the cities. I think probably even more so than America. So I think probably majority are still in the city, but in the country you would have people who are in these like both working small lots of land, and you also have a lot of immigrant labor that gets shipped in, usually from local Pacific Islands, who they get to do sort of like a, how would you describe it? Like they do like a piecemeal work, I suppose. But they aren't citizens. They're just like foreign laborers. So I'm not sure if that answers the question. But
so I'm kind of getting, there's a lot of farm workers. It's kind of strange to me because here in the U.S., the picture is that they're coal miners or they're auto industry workers, and then farm work tends to be almost exclusively, the stereotype is at least, done by immigrants.
yeah, I mean, most of the manual work I think is still done by immigrants. Most of it, but there are smaller lands which are operated by, I guess you could call them, like, to use the more Marxist terms, like sort of petty bourgeois. But
So there's a big proportion of small farmers who own their own land, basically.
Effectively.
But you said their land is owned by big landowners, so it is
yeah, like there's a large sort of there's a dynamic where like they are basically, even though they may technically own the land, and they do kind of work on it, they have to sell their produce to these things like Coles and Woolworths, these big distributors, and there's a lot of tension between them. And there's two things going on. There's both these smaller farmers who have to sell to these large monopolies, and there's also this general big landowners, which is separate. And there's sort of tension between kind of all of them.
So okay, that it makes sense because here in the U.S. we have Monsanto, and they're always getting into conflicts with small farmers. So it basically seems like they're restricted in terms of the produce they can sell. This is a source of a lot of animosity, and then I could also take a leap and guess that the big landowners are trying to take the small landowners' land. Basically, they're trying to swallow them up.
Effectively, yeah. There's a sort of a pressure for that, and this is the thing that I've always had conversations with someone like indigenous comrades, is that there's a sort of a shared interest between sort of the indigenous population and the sort of smaller to sort of to do land reform. But that's really not given a lot of political expression at all. like I would say at all. Like on the left especially, it's not even talked about. Like when it comes to indigenous issues, they only focus on cultural stuff usually, and when it comes to farmers, they basically just kind of write them all off reactionary. So both those elements are still there, and there's unity there, but it's not given expression at all.
So what these big landowners, I guess they're big corporate agriculture, basically, right? And so are they associated with the general Australian establishment then, right?
Usually, yeah. There are essentially like there's a lot of European, Anglo-American investment. That's the majority of those. Like, there's a lot of fear-mongering about China. China bought the port of Darwin, which is I guess a relatively significant port in the north of the country. And this was this huge like political upheaval here. Whenever China does any investment and deal, because there's a lot of xenophobia here. It's a huge that was actually a founding reason for federation, was the sort of fear of China. And I think you're probably aware of the role that Australia's been in that with America in terms of the sort of war against China. But this also translates to the economic act, because you have these lots of multinational, large, mostly the mining territory, because a large part of it, as you probably know, Australia is large part of it's not actually agrarian. It's sort of I don't know what the word is, but inhospitable or whatever. Not really, but there are people who still technically live there. But it's a lot of it's just used for mining, and that, which is the majority of land, that's owned largely. And some of them are Australian, like BHP. That's an Australian.
Sorry, you cut out. Well, who is it owned by?
One of the biggest mining companies here is BHP, Broken Hill Petroleum, I think it is. So there are kind of national, Australian sort of national bourgeois, big landowners, but there's also these largely European, Anglo-US companies who own a lot of land here as well.
So as far as proportions is concerned, how much is divided between Chinese, American, European, and English and so on, for example?
Oh, in terms of foreign investment, Hong Kong has more investment in Australia than China does, which is great. Everyone.
Wow.
I looked at the stats, and China does have a decent amount of investment here, but our economic relationship is primarily just trade. The reason why Australia was able to avoid a recession, the last recession we had before the COVID one was in I think '91, and then we had this long period of time. We basically kind of dodged the GFC in a lot of ways in 2008, and a big part of that was to do with our trading relationship with China. China basically carried it through their trade, but in terms of kind of investment and ownership, they don't actually own a ton. It's proportionally way more the US and European, which is why there's so much xenophobia, focus on Chinese investment, because the majority is.
Wait, so you basically, that implies that the anti-China sentiment is not organic, but is from the top down then, I would guess? Because if China doesn't own as much as the rest, then it seems like it'd be top down, you know?
Yeah, basically. I mean, effectively, there's an interesting history, that goes back well even before Federation. I don't know if you know anything about the sort of pre-Federation history of Australia, but a very part of working class history in Australia is the Eureka Stockade, the Eureka Rebellion. Do you know about that?
No, I'm not familiar at all.
It was in my state of Victoria. It was this basically there was a big gold rush in the 1800s, and you had a lot of miners coming in, both domestically but also from abroad, a lot of them from China as well. And you did have this sort of you had this point of real unity against the colonial government, who had some really shitty laws around licensing fees and shit, and they were generally, and so there was this big rebellion. And then it was sort of aligned with the Charterist movement, It was sort of like a pre kind of labor. I think Marx even wrote about it at some point. But basically, why I'm mentioning this is because not long after there was additional riots, like race riots, between these sort of like settler Europeans and Chinese miners. And I think so. I think it is in one level top down, but there is a kind of bottom up sort of element to it in terms of chauvinism. But even then, I have no idea how much of that was stoked from the top back then. We don't really know. I would say probably, but a large part of it is top down because for a while, like in the early 2010s, when our relationship with China was probably at its best, I think there was a lot less xenophobia. But it's definitely ramped up since then.
All right. Unfortunately, it's got to be the last question because we got to wrap it up to get more people in. But last question I have is, one thing that always struck me that's difficult about Australia is that from a geopolitical perspective, it seems very lonely.
Yeah.
I wonder, what is the destiny of Australia? What future can it have? How can Australia have a true sovereignty free from American and European being a kind of instrument of American and European interests in the world? What does it mean for there to be an independent, truly independent Australia that rather than being a type of, colony of Europe geopolitically and historically and so on? What do you think about that? How do you think about that kind of issue?
This is a really like kind of a big question here as well, and there's no real easy answer, but there's a big part of it. I think you could sort of see roots of it in the Whitlam coup that occurred in the 70s, where our Prime Minister at the time, Gough Whitlam, wanted to basically make us non-aligned, which was very significant. They wanted to pull us out of the Vietnam, and they kind of wanted to maintain a bit more orientation, and they just couped him. So in terms of within the parliamentary system, I don't know if it actually is possible. I think that Australia on its current trajectory is really kind of hiltering its horse behind America, and I think that's going to just kind of destroy the country eventually. If the US continues its decline, which I think it will, objectively, I think Australia's in for a pretty bad road. And I think that really only a kind of like the thing is, we're still a monarchy, right? So the republic question still hasn't even been answered yet. This is also what I wanted to talk about in terms of the civilizational aspect, is that it's always been the labor movement of Republican, and I think a socialist republic is the only way you can achieve this. How we go about that, I'm really not sure. Like, I mean, the kind of easy answer is just revolution, but that's like concretely, it's a really hard one, and it's one that I think a lot of the left doesn't even, because of the whole like anti-Australia sentiment. There's no even like idea as to like what would an Australian republic actually look like. There's not much even formulation about it. But it would have to be on mutual grounds. We're in Asia, so we'd have to have a relationship. But I think that most Australian people would probably want like not to be a colony of anyone. I don't think China would make. I just think that like there's a lot of fear that that's going to happen. It's like a big fear here, and I don't know. We're trying to work that out ourselves locally, but it's a really fucking hard question because I don't know. There's just no really easy answer beyond just we need to be a socialist republic. So.
Yeah, I personally don't know enough about Australia. I know very little about. So I'm sure if I had a feel of the country more and was, especially if I'd been there before and understood the people there more, I myself would be able to have a better time trying to understand that. But thank you so much for coming on the show. It was really insightful and really interesting. And
no, it's great. That's what you're doing.
For sure. Do you have anything you want to shout out or?
Yeah. I guess shout out to the Australian Communist Party. And shout out to the Community Union Defence League. The kind of orgs that I get involved with, they got a really good line in terms of establishing an independent kind of away from the kind of faux left, not tailing the Australian Labor Party, which has completely cocked. Yeah, so up them, check out their website, ozcp.org.au. Check out the program.
For sure, for sure. That's good. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Bye.
Bye.